Chapter 866, Zhang Xian's Prowess. Zhang Shi. Upon seeing Zhang Xian, the eyes of Hu Yaoyao and the others immediately lit up. They immediately attempted to retreat from the battle to unite with him, but their opponent harumphed coldly. "Do you think that you can stop this battle just because you want to? Hoo." The opponent brandished the sword in his hand, and a powerful might immediately chased after Hu Yaoyao and the others, leaving them no choice but to turn around to counterattack. However, their counterattack was still a little late, and the opponent's slash left them with a deep cut on their arms. What swift swordsmanship! Zhang Xian's eyebrows shot up. The opponent's swordsmanship wasn't exceptionally profound, but it made up for its simplicity with speed, preciseness, and exceptional mastery in the comprehension of sword intent. Despite collaborating with one another, Hu Yaoyao and the others were still unable to withstand its might, and they were pulled back into the battle once more. Seeing the opponent attack Hu Yaoyao and the others relentlessly, leaving them no opportunity to escape at all, Zhang Xian frowned. "That friend over there, we are all master teachers, so surely we can talk things out. There is no need to resort to a life-and-death duel. You want the duel to stop? Sure, if you think that you can save them, you are free to try. Otherwise, I am afraid none of you will be getting out of here unharmed." The Chrysalis Realm Pinnacle Cultivator fighting Hu Yaoyao and the others taunted with a smirk. The opponent's voice sounded extremely young, which drew Zhang Xian's gaze to his facial features. Astonishingly, he realized that the opponent seemed to be even younger than Hu Yaoyao and the others, possibly only in his early 20s. To reach Chrysalis Realm Pinnacle at such a young age and subdue Hu Yaoyao and the others simultaneously, the opponent's talent was truly fearsome. Turning his gaze to the Half-Saint Realm Cultivator as well, Zhang Xian noticed that the other party was only in his mid-20s as well. "Since that is the case, pardon me." Seeing that the opponent had no intention of stopping, if the battle were allowed to continue, Hu Yaoyao and the others would eventually suffer severe injuries. Thus, without any hesitation, Zhang Xian leaped into the battle as well. Ethereal Treading Realm. Sensing Zhang Xian's cultivation, the disdainful sneer emerged on the lips of the half-saint standing by the side, seemingly anticipating that Zhang Xian would make a fool out of himself. "Even 4 Chrysalis Realm Pinnacle Cultivators are no match for my companion. What can an Ethereal Treading Realm primary stage like you possibly do? You are merely courting death. I was thinking, how formidable must you be to talk so much by the side? But it turns out that you are only at the Ethereal Treading Realm. Since that's the case, I will have you collapse first." The fighting young man also noticed Zhang Xian's weak cultivation, and the same disdainful sneer surfaced on his face as well. After pushing back Hu Yaoyao and the others with a powerful slash, he rushed straight toward Zhang Xian with a stab. Even before the sword arrived, the powerful aura it emanated would have already pierced deep into one's body, leaving one shivering uncontrollably. That young man might only have been at Chrysalis Realm Pinnacle, but the might of his sword surpassed even some half-saint experts. It was no wonder Hu Yaoyao and the others couldn't defeat him even in a 4-to-1 battle. Facing such a powerful stab, Zhang Xian didn't bother to hide at all. Activating his Eye of Insight, he swiftly analyzed the area where the sword would land, and abruptly exhaled deeply. "Hoo-la!" Zhang Xian's chest immediately deflated along with the exhalation. In a battle between experts, the slightest millimeter could make the greatest of difference. The sword was aimed right at his chest, but it seemed that the other party had no intention of killing him with this stab, aiming to only achieve a shallow pierce and stop right before his heart. However, with the deep exhalation Zhang Xian had made, the rampaging force of the advancing sword stopped right before his chest instead. Even the sharpest of sword can't pierce the thinnest of cloth once it loses its momentum. As powerful as the young man's stab was, it had already run out of strength at this point. With a light chuckle, Zhang Xian lifted his hand and held the other party's swords lightly between his forefinger and middle finger. Wang! As if a captured snake, the sharp sword wouldn't budge no matter how the young man tried to pull it away. What sharp insight and mental fortitude! The half-saint cultivator by the side narrowed his eyes. This movement might seem simple and lackluster, but it wasn't something that just anyone was capable of pulling off. One's eye of discernment and mental fortitude must reach beyond par. If one's discernment wasn't sufficiently keen and a wrong judgment was made, the sword could end up piercing one's chest instead. On the other hand, if one lacked sufficient mental fortitude, it would be impossible to retain one's composure before a life-and-death situation such as this. Interesting. For an ethereal treading realm cultivator to dare to face the sword of a chrysalis realm pinnacle expert head-on, the other party sure had a lot of guts. However, Wu Su's sword can't be stopped that easily. He will have to pay a heavy price for it. His companion might possess a weaker cultivation than him, but his mastery of swordsmanship was astonishing. The other party might have managed to catch his companion's sword out of a stroke of luck previously, but the true challenge had yet to come. With his lips curled up, the half-saint cultivator turned his sight to the battlefield calmly, expecting to see how his companion would subdue the young lad. However, what he saw instead was his companion exerting all of his strength, such that his face had turned red, but was still unable to pull his sword out of the other party's fingers. What is going on? The half-saint cultivator's eyebrow shot up. His companion could be said to be invincible among cultivators of the same cultivation realm, but for his sword to be captured by an insignificant fellow who was nearly 2 realms weaker than him, and be unable to retrieve it from the other party's fingers at that. How could that be possible? Why you? While he was shocked, the person who was experiencing the situation personally, Wu Su, was nearly scared out of his wits. He had thought that the other party was a small fry who he could defeat in an instant. Yet, the stab that he had put a significant amount of strength into was not only negated by his opponent easily, he even had his sword trapped within the other party's grasp. Let go! Wu Su roared as he gathered his strength and pulled furiously. Here you go. Zhang Xian abruptly released his grip. Humph. As expected of a combat talent, unlike the situation with Ying Qin, Wu Su immediately did a somersault to neutralize the momentum from his pull, allowing him to recover his balance swiftly. After which, he charged forward and quickly sent another stab toward Zhang Xian. Knowing that his opponent wasn't ordinary, Wu Su's stab was abrupt and much swifter than before. Before one could even process what was happening, the sword would already be right before one. The half-saint nodded in approval upon seeing the stab. This blithe sword is well executed. It seems he has achieved at least 20% of my mastery. That stab was swift and agile, carrying the aura of a conqueror. It might be only 20% of his mastery, but that was already a fearsome level. Considering how close the two of them were, even of an average half-saint intermediate stage cultivator would be unable to dodge the attack. There was no doubt about it, the ethereal treading realm lad's defeat was certain. You really want to have a go at it, don't you? If Zhang Xian had been unable to react, he would have surely suffered severe injuries under the assault. Even if he were to survive this ordeal, he would have to spend at least the next few months in bed. He had already gone easily on the other party, but the other party still launched such a vicious attack on him. Displeased, Zhang Xian's eyebrows shot up as he bent his middle finger and flicked it lightly. Ding! With a crisp echo, as if a cracked glass, Wu Su's sword abruptly broke into numerous pieces and fell to the ground. When Zhang Xian had held Wu Su's sword previously, he had already compiled a book regarding it, so he knew where its weakness was. On top of that, he possessed strength comparable to a half-saint pinnacle, making it an easy feat for him to destroy the sword with a simple flick of his finger. What? Seeing his spirit pinnacle sword destroyed by a single flick of the other party's finger, Wu Su nearly fainted from shock. Even if a half-saint pinnacle expert were to exert the full extent of his strength, it would still be nigh impossible to destroy a spirit pinnacle sword. Yet, for it to shatter with a single flick of the other party's finger. Just how could that be possible? At the same time, the eyeballs of the half-saint watching the battle by the side also nearly popped out of their sockets. He had thought that Zhang Xian would surely be severely injured at the very least, but the latter had actually managed to shatter Wu Su's sword with a simple flick of his finger. How could the other party possibly wield such fearsome strength? Was the other party really an ethereal treading realm cultivator? They had always prided themselves on being invincible among cultivators of the same cultivation realm, so how could his companion be defeated by someone of a weaker cultivation level than him? Damn it! Wu Su shook his head in disbelief, unwilling to believe what had just happened. With a frenzied look on his face, he charged at Zhang Xian once more. It was impossible for someone who was nearly 2 cultivation realms weaker than him to defeat him so easily. Impossible. On the other hand, seeing that the young man was still unwilling to give up, Zhang Xian shook his head with a sigh and raised his fist. Heaven's Path Fist Art. Pang! Before Wu Su could even process what was going on, he had already been struck by a punch to his chest. He collapsed to the ground, coughing an endless stream of blood. It felt as if his internal organs had shifted under the incredible force, and even after a brief respite, he was still unable to catch his breath. It took him a few more moments before he managed to recover sufficiently to return to his feet. With a face completely warped by rage, Wu Su glared at Zhang Xian, seemingly preparing to make his next move, when the half-saint cultivator by the side abruptly intervened. Enough! Don't you think that you have embarrassed yourself enough? Yes. Wu Su glared at Zhang Xian hesitantly for a moment longer before hesitantly backing down to the side. He took out a pill and swallowed it, and only then did he feel his condition alleviate slightly. Even though he had decided not to make a move, his hostile gaze was still fixated on Zhang Xian, seemingly tempted to tear him apart. Ignoring the duo, Zhang Xian whipped out a wine gourd and infused his jinqi inside before passing them over to Hu Yaoyao and the others to heal their injuries. After that was done, he turned his gaze back to the duo with a deep frown on his face. We are all master teachers here, but you willfully made a move on my companions, and not to mention, you even resorted to such vicious moves. Do the rules of the master-teacher pavilion mean nothing to you? Vicious moves? You haven't seen what truly vicious is yet. Hand over the scarlet firefly fruits, and I can consider letting you off. Otherwise, none of you will be getting out of here unscathed today. Wu Su roared in response. Hearing those words, the short-tempered Xue Zhenyang bellowed furiously, "Scarlet firefly fruits? We have been behind you all this while, how in the world could we possibly have obtained the scarlet firefly fruits ahead of you?" From the start to the end, they had never found an opportunity to approach the cavern. Yet, the duo actually came over to demand the scarlet firefly fruits from them. Was there something wrong with their minds? Even if you wish to accuse us, at least find something less illogical than that. We confirmed earlier that there were scarlet firefly fruits inside the cavern, but they suddenly disappeared when we entered the cavern just a moment ago. On top of that, we noticed traces suggesting that someone had hastened the maturity of the fruits. There are only the few of us in this valley, so who else could it be if not you? Wu Su snapped. The 2 saber-toothed spirit tigers had lost their consciousness, and there were no signs to say that they had devoured the fruits ahead of them. From this, they deduced that someone must have beaten them to the scarlet firefly fruits. There weren't too many people in the valley, so the culprit could only be them. If we had obtained the scarlet firefly fruits, we would have already long left the valley. Why would we waste our time loitering around this area and talking to you? You are clearly making up nonsense to extort our wealth. Hu Yaoyao harumphed. In her opinion, the duo were the ones who had harvested the fruits, and they were only making use of this opportunity to extort them. They were truly a disgrace to all master teachers. Preposterous, Wu Su was just about to argue with Hu Yaoyao when the half-saint cultivator beside him abruptly waved his hands and bellowed, "Enough." Wu Su immediately fell silent. I am sure that we can agree that the scarlet firefly fruits are very important to all of us here. Like you have said, we are all master teachers. If you have harvested the scarlet firefly fruits, we are willing to officially negotiate the distribution of the fruits with you under the rules of the Master Teacher Pavilion, the half-saint said calmly. How do you intend to negotiate? Zhang Xian asked. Simple. If any of you can withstand 3 blows from me, we will turn around and leave straight away. Otherwise, pardon me, but you won't be leaving until you hand over 5 scarlet firefly fruits today, the half-saint replied. If we win, you get to leave without any compensation, and if we lose, we have to hand you 5 scarlet firefly fruits. Ha ha ha, this is the most hilarious joke I have heard in the longest time. You call this a negotiation? What makes you think that we will agree to such terms? Zhang Xian sneered coldly. Chapter 867, I can use any means at my disposal. Of course, we aren't expecting to take the scarlet firefly fruits from you for free. If we win, we will buy those fruits from you at a price of 50 high-tier spirit stones, the half-saint cultivator said. 50 high-tier spirit stones? Zhang Xian scoffed. If you can fork out 5,000 high-tier spirit stones, I can sell them to you right now. Just the several bottles of origin heavy water and formation plates that Hu Yaoyao and the others had prepared to obtain the scarlet firefly fruits already exceeded 50 high-tier spirit stones. To offer to buy 5 of them for such a price. Did he really think that they were fools? If you want to buy some of the fruits, sure, we are willing to sell them. 5,000 high-tier spirit stones, no more, no less. You should learn to watch your words. You might possess exceptional talent, but in my eyes, you mean nothing at all. The master-teacher pavilion might forbid killing among fellow master-teachers, but teaching you a lesson. I think I have sufficient authority to do so, the half-saint said coldly as he glanced at Zhang Xian with narrowed eyes. Why? Are you going to resort to threatening me now that you don't have enough money? Zhang Xian burst into laughter. This is not a threat, I am merely stating facts. In the world that we live in, the only thing that truly counts is strength. The half-saint harumphed as an aura reminiscent of a sharp sword abruptly burst out of him, forcing all flora and fauna in the area to lower themselves subserviently. Feeling that aura, the faces of Hu Yaoyao and the others paled in astonishment. They had met plenty of half-saints in their time, but the aura of the other party felt like a guillotine above their heads, threatening to decapitate them should they show the slightest resistance. This fearsome aura was something that they had never felt before, even from a nascent saint expert. Seemingly unaffected by the other party's overwhelming aura, Zhang Xian asked with a wry smile on his lips, in other words, you are saying that justice lies in the hands of the strong? That's right. The master-teacher pavilion might have its own set of rules, but before true strength, those rules are meaningless. I recommend you learn your place and hand over the scarlet firefly fruits obediently, perhaps, we might still be able to settle this matter peacefully. Otherwise, I don't mind challenging you all to a master-teacher confrontation. By then, not only will you not receive any spirit stones at all, you will have to call someone to carry you back, the half-saint cultivator sneered coldly as he placed his hands behind his back, glancing at Zhang Xian with an aura of superiority. Snatching was forbidden among master teachers, but challenging one another to duels was allowed. Furthermore, considering that they were in a rural area, there would be no eyewitnesses to say anything if the pair did do something to them. Fair enough. Since you have already said that much, there is nothing else I can do. Seeing that the other party was insistent on settling the matter with force, Zhang Xian shook his head with a sigh and commanded, Byzantium lad, get him. Who? Before anyone could process what was going on, the Byzantium Helios beast abruptly flew over from further down the valley and appeared before the half-saint. In order to not reveal his possession of the myriad anthive nest, Zhang Xian had secretly slipped the nest a distance away before having the Byzantium Helios beast emerge from it. What? The half-saint cultivator did not expect to see a Saint Tudan saint beast appear before him abruptly. He immediately leaped in the air to flee, but the next instant, a massive palm smacked him back to the ground. Pang! Due to the immense force, the half-saint cultivator tumbled 8 rounds before knocking heavily into the cliff face, and a large mouthful of blood spewed from his lips. In the first place, the Byzantium Helios beast was a saint beast capable of rivaling cultivators who possessed a cultivation beyond it, not to mention, its cultivation was far higher than his at that. He might possess exceptional fighting prowess, but there was no way he could be a match for the other party. Damn it! Knowing that it was impossible for him to flee, the half-saint cultivator's face turned so dark that it could bleed ink. Flicking his wrist, a sword appeared in his hands, and with a swift motion, he charged forward to strike the Byzantium Helios beast. Seeing the other party's movements, Zhang Xian nodded in commendation. Not bad. It was no wonder the other party was so arrogant. He did have the strength to back up his words. Just this single move in itself could easily overwhelm an average nascent saint. Even Zhang Xian didn't have the confidence to overcome this move head-on. However, it was a pity that his opponent was the Byzantium Helios beast. As one of the elders of the Master Teacher Academy, the Byzantium Helios beast had fought innumerable battles. How could it possibly be afraid of a mere half-saint? With a roar, its massive palm plucked an enormous tree from the side and flung it toward the half-saint cultivator. Pang! When the sword was still 8 meters away from reaching the Byzantium Helios beast, the wielder of the sword was already struck on his head, and he was smacked flying toward the cliff face once more. In the first place, this battle served no purpose at all. There was an insurmountable gap between the two of them, so there could only be one outcome. Pushing himself away from Cliff, the half-saint cultivator popped a pill into his mouth to alleviate his injuries. Gritting his teeth, he spat, "We are all fellow master teachers, don't you think that it is underhanded for you to have a saint-beast elder interfere in our duel?" In his view, the Byzantium Helios beast was probably an elder accompanying them on this trip to ensure their safety. It should have been a fight among peers, but you had an elder fight in your stead. Don't you think that it is embarrassing? Elder? Zhang Xian burst into laughter. The Byzantium Helios beast is my tamed beast, why do you think that he is an elder? Surely a beast tamer can use his own tamed beast in a duel, right? Your tamed beast? The half-saint was stunned. He had seen many beast tamers before, but even the most capable 7-star beast tamer he had seen could only tame a saint beast 1 realm stronger than him. Yet, this lad, despite being only at the ethereal treading realm, actually managed to tame a spiritual perception realm saint beast. How could this be possible? Ethereal treading, chrysalis, half-saint, nascent saint, void pursuit, spiritual perception. That was 5 whole realms. That's right, Zhang Xian replied nonchalantly as he beckoned with his hand. The Byzantium Helios beast immediately walked over and nudged intimately Zhang Xian with its head. This. The half-saint was rendered speechless. If he had known that the other party had such a powerful tamed beast, he would have never provoked him. Beast tamers always fought with their tamed beast. While the other party's tamed beast might be irrationally powerful, that could only be credited to his astounding capability as a beast tamer. There were no bones anyone could pick from this. How was this duel supposed to proceed? Even if he were to grit his teeth and fight on, he would only be furthering his suffering. What's wrong? Didn't you say that you want to challenge me to a duel? Sure, I accept your challenge. Beast taming is one of my supporting occupations, so my tamed beast can be considered part of my own strength as well. You shouldn't have any problem with that, right? Feel free to make your 3 moves, I will also have Byzantium lad make 3 moves as well, there is no need to stand on ceremony. Zhang Xian said as he politely gestured for the other party to make his moves. Weren't you arrogant just now, thinking that we are powerless before you? Sure, 2 can play that game. If you can withstand 3 blows from my Byzantium lad, I will admit defeat willingly. The half-saint cultivator nearly spurted a mouthful of blood. If the Saint 2 Dan Byzantium Helios beast were to fight him seriously, he would be destroyed in an instant. 3 moves. He wouldn't even survive the first one. It's true that beast tamers can bring their tamed beasts into battle, but since we are master teachers, don't you think that you are diverging too much from your origins by relying so much on your tamed beast? With a reddened face, the half-saint cultivator challenged, I dare you to have a battle with me without the assistance of your tamed beast. You can use any other means at your disposal, and as long as you can defeat me, we will turn around and leave immediately. I can use any other means at my disposal? Zhang Xian asked the half-saint cultivator with a peculiar smile on his lips. That's right. The half-saint cultivator nodded vehemently. As long as the other party didn't make use of the Byzantium Helios beast's strength, given his prowess as a half-saint, he could achieve victory easily. He had gained a rough gauge of the other party's strength from his battle with Wu Su earlier, and he was confident that he could defeat the other party in a normal duel. Don't you think that those words sound familiar? I recall that someone said those words just a moment ago. However, if you are willing to compensate me 100 high-tier spirit stones if you lose, I don't mind having another duel with you. Zhang Xian said. Naturally, Zhang Xian wouldn't accept a duel if he had nothing to gain from it. 100 high-tier spirit stones? Fine. But if you lose, you have to give me 5 scarlet firefly fruits. Seeing Zhang Xian agree to the duel, the half-saint cultivator's eyes lit up in excitement. Sensing the other party's excitement even before the duel had started, Zhang Xian shook his head and said, I haven't lost yet, you know. Humph, we will see soon enough. The half-saint cultivator flicked his sword, and a crisp reverberation sounded from his sword. Come. Wait a moment. Allow me to confirm once more. As long as Byzantium lad doesn't make a move, I can use any other means at my disposal. Zhang Xian confirmed once again. The half-saint cultivator nodded. That's right. All right then, sounds fine to me, Zhang Xian replied. Good. With a cold sneer, the half-saint cultivator stood upright, and in that moment, it felt as if he had become one with his sword. Despite the arrogance of the half-saint cultivator, his comprehension of swordsmanship wasn't beneath Zhang Xian's at all, achieving sword heart realm. Otherwise, his swordsmanship wouldn't harness might that could destroy even a nascent saint expert. Zhang Shi, be careful. Hu Yaoyao said worriedly. Even though the half-saint cultivator had been struck twice by senior Byzantium Helios, due to the latter going easy on him, his injuries weren't too severe, and they had mostly recovered with the pill he had swallowed earlier. In his current state, he should be able to exert his full strength. Hu Yaoyao wasn't too sure how powerful Zhang Xian was, but the disparity in their cultivation realms was simply too huge. No matter how formidable Zhang Xian might be, defeating a half-saint while at the ethereal treading realm seemed to be nigh impossible. This worry was also shared by Shui Zhenyang and the others. It was not that they didn't have faith in Zhang Xian's strength, but that his opponent was simply too powerful. Be it the other party's aura or sword intent, those weren't what ordinary cultivators could withstand. Seeing everyone's expressions, Zhang Xian chuckled leisurely. Don't worry. He said it himself that I can resort to any means as long as Byzantium lad doesn't interfere in the duel. With a flick of his wrist, he said, Ding ding, you're up. Teach that fellow a lesson. Who? In the next instant, a massive weapon cauldron appeared before everyone else. It seemed to harness searing flames within it, causing in the surroundings to become exceptionally torrid. This is the Guardian Saint artifact of our academy, the Golden Origin Cauldron. Recognizing the other party, Hu Yaoyao nearly collapsed to the ground. It was well known among the student populace that the Master Teacher Academy had a powerful Guardian Saint artifact that even senior Byzantium Helios wasn't a match for. Even though Hu Yaoyao had never met the Guardian Saint beast before, she had seen a painting of it in some books. She had thought that it was already formidable that Zhang Shi had succeeded in taming senior Byzantium Helios, but he had actually managed to tame the Guardian Saint artifact as well. Beside her, Shui Zhenyang and Long Tsang Yue also saw the world darken before them, and they nearly keeled over. To tame even the Guardian Saint artifact. It was no wonder he was forced to become the principal. There were no viable candidates other than him. Otherwise, if he were to take both senior Byzantium Helios and the Guardian Saint artifact away with him, it would be no different from the Master Teacher Academy's treasury being emptied out. Hu Yaoyao and the others were only overwhelmed by shock, but at the moment that the Golden Origin Cauldron appeared, the half-saint cultivator saw 10,000 divine beasts stampeding through his mind. His mouth widened to the point where one could stuff an egg in, but he was still unable to alleviate the suffocating sensation he felt in his chest. You tamed a saint beast? Fine, I will accept that. Perhaps, you might just be lucky, encountering an injured saint beast and treating him, thus becoming its benefactor. But to tame a saint-tier artifact as well, not to mention one as powerful as that cauldron, just how in the world did you do it? A pity it was that the half-saint cultivator wasn't even granted the time to brood over his misery. The Golden Origin Cauldron, upon hearing that there was someone it could beat up, leaped up in excitement and declared, "Don't worry, master. I will fulfill the mission you have asked of me perfectly. Watch how I, the Golden Origin Cauldron, reduce him to cinders within moments." After which, the half-saint cultivator saw the large figure before him turn into a blur, and he instinctively raised his sword in defense. Kacha! The sword in his hands broke into smithereens, but before he could even process that, his body was already whizzing through the air before crashing right into the cliff face once more, leaving a huge, shaped depression behind him. More than a dozen of his ribs had shattered, and fresh blood spurted uncontrollably from his mouth. Chapter 868, Breakthrough, Chrysalis Realm. Brother Lu. Wu Su hurriedly rushed forward to pull his companion out of the wall and fed him a recovery pill. Why you? After consuming the recovery pill and resting for a moment, the half-saint Brother Lu finally regained consciousness. Pointing a shaking finger at Zhang Xian, he felt as if he was going to burst into tears. It is one thing for an ethereal treading realm lad like you to possess a spiritual perception realm saint beast as a tamed beast, but to have a saint-tier artifact on top of that. Tell me the truth, are you actually Kong Shi's illegitimate son? Otherwise, how can you have so many good items in your possession? What's wrong? You were the one who told me that I can resort to any means at my disposal as long as Byzantium lad doesn't interfere in the battle. You were the one who set the rules, and I simply followed them. Zhang Xian shrugged nonchalantly. Pooh. A strong feeling of frustration welled up in Brother Lu's chest, and he spurted yet another mouthful of blood. What was this? He had thought that the other party could only have a Byzantium Helios beast as his trump card. As long as he restricted that, he would be able to pummel the other party as he pleased. How could he have known that the other party would have a cauldron on top of that? Screw this. The person who I want to fight is you, not your saint-tier artifact. You might not have broken any rules, but how the hell am I supposed to fight with a saint-tier artifact? There is no way I can win, right? Gritting his teeth, Brother Lu exclaimed, what I mean is a fight without relying on any artifact or saint beast, a proper duel between two cultivators using their own strength. Fearing that the other party would whip out some kind of powerful item next, he emphasized, using their own strength. I see. So, you want to have a proper duel as martial artists? Zhang Xian asked. That's right. Do you dare accept my challenge? Brother Lu taunted. He had always been a proud person, but he had ended up being humiliated more than he had ever been in his life today. If he didn't vent it out today, it would become a permanent trauma that would hunt him for life. While it was unbecoming for a half-saint expert like him to challenge an ethereal treading realm cultivator, in view of the many means the other party possessed, not even he could say that he had absolute confidence in achieving victory. Sure, but the stakes will be doubled. Zhang Xian replied calmly. A duel? As long as there is sufficient money involved, I am open to negotiations. Fine by me. A glint flashed across Brother Lu's eyes as he nodded in agreement. Remember, you have already lost once, so you owe me 100 high-tier spirit stones. Zhang Xian reminded. Brother Lu harumphed. You don't need to worry about that, I won't stoop so low as to renege on my promise. But of course, if you lose, I hope that you can fulfill your end of the bet as well. Alright then. I won't take advantage of you. I will give you 2 hours to recuperate from your injuries before we begin the duel, lest you refuse to admit defeat later on. Zhang Xian waved his hands casually. You. It should have been a good thing that the other party was giving him some time to recuperate, but for some reason, Brother Lu felt as if the other party was mocking him, and he felt another warm surge gushing up his throat once more. It took some time before he managed to recover, and after taking a deep breath, he nodded. Fine. It was through countless battles that he had managed to attain his current strength. He knew that it was precisely in crucial periods like this that he shouldn't allow his emotions to cloud his rationality. 2 hours might not be sufficient for him to make a full recovery, but he should be able to exert around 95% of his full strength by then. And to him, that was more than enough. Brother Lu turned to Wu Su and said, Wu Su, give me 2 of your miniature restorative pills. Yes. Wu Su nodded. The miniature restorative pill was an extremely valuable grade 6 pill, and he was usually reluctant to use one even when he was injured. However, knowing that Brother Lu had gotten injured for him, he passed them over without any hesitation. This grade 6 pill was known to be effective on even the injuries of Saint Realm experts. Even if the 2 pills couldn't guarantee a complete recovery, they should improve his condition significantly. Swallowing the miniature restorative pill, Brother Lu immediately felt the medicinal energy coursing through his body, and his pale complexion swiftly regained its color. The Golden Origin Cauldron turned to Zhang Xian and advised, Master, given that this fellow was able to survive my attack, his strength is extraordinary. It would be best not to make light of him. By the side, the Byzantium Helios beast also nodded in agreement. The 2 of them had exchanged blows with Brother Lu, and even though they were able to subdue the other party easily, they could feel that the fellow's strength far surpassed that of ordinary half-saint cultivators. Even though their master wasn't a weakling either, he was still some way off from matching the other party. I know. Zhang Xian nodded. Through the eye of insight and library of Heaven's Path, he knew that the other party possessed exceptional prowess, which he couldn't match in his current state. However, the outcome of a battle couldn't be determined by just mere stats. The decisions one chose to make in the midst of a battle played a vital role, too. Even though Zhang Xian felt that he wouldn't lose, he still thought that he should make some preparations just in case. This was also why he had proposed taking a 2-hour break before the duel. The enemy needed time to recuperate, but he needed time to prepare his hand as well. Zhang Xian turned to Hu Yaoyao and the others and asked, Do you have any ethereal treading realm cultivation technique manuals? I need as many of them as possible. The best way for him to stand against that Brother Lu was to raise his cultivation and narrow the gap between them. 2 hours might not be much to anyone else, but to him, as long as he compiled the corresponding Heaven's Path divine art manuals, he would be able to raise his cultivation swiftly. We do have some. Hu Yaoyao nodded, and the 4 of them began taking out all of the ethereal treading realm cultivation technique manuals they had. As the leaders of their respective factions, they tended to keep quite a handful of cultivation technique manuals of lower cultivation realms in their storage rings so that they could refer to them whenever they were guiding their subordinates in their cultivation. For ethereal treading realm, they had around several hundred books each. Zhang Xian swiftly scanned them with his gaze, collecting them into his library of Heaven's Path. By compiling all of them together, he successfully formed the ethereal treading realm Heaven's Path divine art. Zhang Xian turned to them and asked once more, What about Chrysalis realm cultivation technique manuals? I only have 20 Chrysalis realm cultivation technique manuals with me at the moment. 12 here. Dong Xian is more meticulous, so she might have more with her. I do have a few more, but I only have around 40 of them in total. Soon, gathering the 4's Chrysalis realm cultivation technique manuals together, there was a total of around 100 books or so. After collecting them all into the library of Heaven's Path and compiling them, the result was just as Zhang Xian had expected. There were still too many flaws to form a complete Heaven's Path divine art. Nevertheless, the portion regarding the breakthrough to Chrysalis realm was still perfected. In other words, he had the Heaven's Path divine art manuals to cultivate from ethereal treading realm primary stage all the way to Chrysalis realm primary stage. Guard me, I need to cultivate now. Zhang Xian said. Even though he had failed to compile the complete Chrysalis Realm Heaven's Path divine art, he was still rather satisfied with the result. Yes. The others nodded, but they couldn't help but trade perplexed glances with one another. To cultivate right before the duel. Isn't that just desperately grasping at straws? But despite the doubts in their mind, they still made sure to guard him earnestly. They hid him behind them while directing their gazes intently at Wu Su and Brother Lu, fearing that they might attempt to do something in the meantime. However, even though the two of them had resorted to some underhanded means out of their desperation to obtain the scarlet firefly fruits, they still had their pride as martial artists. As such, even though they had noticed that Zhang Xian was cultivating, they didn't try to disrupt him in any way. They chose to focus their efforts on recuperating from their injuries instead, so that they would be in their top condition for the duel 2 hours later. Seeing that they weren't going to pull anything, Hu Yaoyao heaved a sigh of relief. However, with her attention freed, doubts about the impending duel began sprouting in her mind. Unnerved, she turned to Senior Byzantium Helios to ask her about the chances of Zhang Shi achieving victory, hoping to ease her worries, when she suddenly heard Dong Xan gasping in shock. What's wrong? The others immediately turned to her with doubtful gazes. With a body stiffened with shock, Dong Xan pointed behind her. Look at Zhang Shi. Zhang Shi. Hu Yaoyao and the others turned around to take a look, and what they saw left them dumbstruck. Is it just my imagination, or has Zhang Shi's cultivation reached ethereal treading realm intermediate stage? Shui Zhenyang uttered with quivering lips. They had gotten a clear glimpse of Zhang Xian's cultivation when he made a move against Wu Su earlier, ethereal treading realm primary stage. Yet, in just a short moment after he started cultivating, why did it feel as if the latter had achieved a breakthrough? It's not your imagination. He has indeed reached ethereal treading realm intermediate stage. Hu Yaoyao nodded affirmatively. Most likely, Zhang Shi must have been stuck at ethereal treading realm primary stage for quite a long while and was already on the verge of a breakthrough. Advancing a single stage abruptly wasn't much to be surprised about. To use an analogy, if one was already standing before the goal of a marathon, all it would take was one final push to successfully achieve the breakthrough. There was no need to make a fuss over it. That does seem to be the case. No wonder Zhang Shi agreed to have a duel with the other party so readily, it seems he was already on the verge of a breakthrough. However, it doesn't seem like advancing a single stage will make much of a difference to the outcome. Ah! Shui Zhenyang remarked while he nodded, but then he suddenly exclaimed in the midst of his words. What is with you again? Seeing Shui Zhenyang make a big fuss out of everything, Long Yue was rendered speechless. No matter what, they were the cream of the crop in the Master Teacher Academy, competent and knowledgeable. Why did it seem that after meeting Zhang Shi, they had all become countryside bumpkins who were ignorant of the world? Why do I feel like Zhang Shi has reached ethereal treading realm advanced stage? Could my eyes be playing tricks on me? Shui Zhenyang's face paled as he rubbed his eyes forcefully. He was certain that Zhang Shi had just reached ethereal treading realm intermediate stage a moment ago, so how could he be at the advanced stage right now? Even the greatest genius in the world couldn't advance that fast. Advanced stage? You must be joking. All of us clearly saw it just now, and he is definitely at the intermediate stage. Long Yue chuckled softly, and just as he was going to make a joke about how Shui Zhenyang's eyes had been failing him recently, he suddenly caught a glimpse of Zhang Xian, and his eyes widened in shock. Holy moly! He really is at advanced stage. Long Yue exclaimed with tears threatening to spill from his eyes. On the other hand, watching the frenzied state that the other two were in, Hu Yaoyao and Dong Xian hurriedly turned their gazes over, and their eyes couldn't help but widen in astonishment as well. It appeared that Zhang Shi was truly at ethereal treading realm advanced stage. Could they have made a mistake earlier? But was it really possible for all four of them to make such an elementary mistake simultaneously? However, no matter how they looked at it, the other party was indeed at ethereal treading realm advanced stage. There was no mistake about that. Before the few of them could recover from their shock, Dong Xian suddenly exclaimed with a hoarse voice, "Wait a moment, he isn't at Ethereal Treading Realm Advanced Stage but Ethereal Treading Realm Pinnacle." Pinnacle? The group couldn't help but feel the world spinning around them. With a tearful expression, Hu Yaoyao gasped, "Why does it seem like he is attempting a breakthrough to Chrysalis Realm?" "No, he is indeed attempting a breakthrough." "Wait, that isn't right, he has already reached Chrysalis Realm." The group couldn't help but be dumbstruck once again. The young man behind them was already a Chrysalis Realm primary stage expert at this very moment. To advance from Ethereal Treading Realm primary stage to Chrysalis Realm primary stage, one entire realm, in less than an hour. Even though they had witnessed the sight with their very own eyes, they still couldn't help but think that they were in a dream. Feeling so shocked that her mind was going to explode, Hu Yaoyao asked, "Dong Xian, how long did it take you to advance from Ethereal Treading Realm primary stage to Chrysalis Realm primary stage?" 2 years and 4 months. With this record, I was already considered one of the fastest cultivators in the Master Teacher Academy. Dong Xian replied hoarsely. When she'd achieved the feat back then, she had felt a huge surge of confidence, which had made her feel as if she was unrivaled in the world. But looking at the young man before her, she realized that her record didn't even come close to being associated with the word fast. It felt as if even a turtle would be faster than her. It was no wonder that, back at the Elder Hall, that fellow had said that his rate of cultivation had slowed due to him being busy with various matters. Back then, she had thought that he was just bragging, but after witnessing this sight, she realized that not only was he not bragging, he was even being incredibly humble. At this moment, a random, passing thought raced through her mind. If she were to run to the 10 great master teachers to tell them that Zhang Shi was actually extremely humble and low profile, would they think that she was exaggerating and throw her out? Chapter 869, Still a Human. Having compiled the relevant Heaven's Path Divine Art Manual, Zhang Xian began cultivating with the Earth Vein Spirit Essence without any hesitation. Due to the easier absorbability of the Earth Vein Spirit Essence, his rate of cultivation was much faster than if he had cultivated using a Spirit Stone instead, so he was able to achieve breakthroughs faster than normal. However, even though he had managed to achieve breakthroughs swiftly, the amount of spiritual energy he needed had, in fact, increased exponentially instead. He had procured a huge pool of Earth Vein Spirit Essence from the Cloud Mist Ridge, but in just this hour of cultivation, he had already depleted nearly a third of it. The higher my cultivation is, the harsher the requirement on the spiritual energy I have to absorb. Even though the Earth Vein Spirit Essence is rich in spiritual energy, its purity is still lacking. Zhang Xian shook his head. The Earth Vein Spirit Essence was rich in spiritual energy and had a high absorbability, thus making it an invaluable treasure. However, its purity was inferior to high-tier spirit stones. It was sufficient for the usage of saint beasts and other cultivators, but to Zhang Xian, who cultivated the Heaven's Path Divine Art, it was still lacking. Only a tenth of the Earth Vein Spirit Essence was suitable for his absorption, and the remaining 9/10 ended up being wasted in the process. It seems like I shouldn't cultivate using the Earth Vein Spirit Essence anymore. If it comes to it, I should just sell it for high-tier spirit stones. Zhang Xian thought. Since the effectiveness of the Earth Vein Spirit Essence for him was declining, he would only be wasting it if he were to continue using it. Rather than to waste such a valuable resource, it would be wiser for him to sell it instead. It might be useless to him, but it was still an invaluable treasure to others. Otherwise, the saint beasts of the Cloud Mist Ridge wouldn't have been guarding it so desperately back then. Forget it, I will think about it when I return to Hongyuan City. Putting the matter to the back of his mind, Zhang Xian turned his attention to his newfound strength. Advancing from Ethereal Treading Realm Primary Stage to Chrysalis Realm Primary Stage, the strength that he could draw from his Jinshi cultivation had increased from 17 million ding to 29 million ding. With just that, he was already on par with a Chrysalis Realm Advanced Stage cultivator. If you were to factor in the 20 million ding from his soul cultivation and 16 million ding from his physical body, that would total up to an incredible might of 65 million ding, which was on par with a nascent saint intermediate stage cultivator. In other words, he wielded strength equivalent to a cultivator 2 realms stronger than him. With this, that fellow shouldn't be a match for me anymore. Zhang Xian chuckled confidently. That brother Lu was clearly no pushover, but compared to Zhang Xian, the other party was still slightly lacking. Zhang Xian meditated on the spot to reinforce his cultivation, bringing his aura to its strongest state, before opening his eyes and gazing at the duo opposite to him. Brother Lu seemed to have mostly healed from his wounds as well, and his aura felt sharper and more pressurizing than before. Most likely, he had used some kind of formidable secret art to bring himself back to his peak state for the duel. That fellow sure won't be easy to deal with. Zhang Xian remarked internally. Under normal circumstances, given how much weaker he was than the other party should not view him as much of an opponent. Yet, the other party focused his attention fully on conditioning himself to his peak state, not underestimating him in the least. It was truly rare to see a cultivator not becoming complacent before an opponent weaker than them. Often, geniuses were defeated not due to being overpowered by the strong but due to carelessness against the weak. A long moment later, Brother Lu exhaled deeply and abruptly stood up. I am done recuperating. Are you done yet? His complexion was still slightly pale, but he had managed to condition his state to be significantly stronger than he was before. Of course. Zhang Xian chuckled as he stood up as well. Let's begin then. Draw your weapon. With a flick of his wrist, Brother Lu took out another sword from his storage ring. As a sword practitioner, it was normal for him to have more than a single sword in his possession. All right. Zhang Xian flicked his wrist as well, and a sword appeared in his grasp. Glacier Rain Sword. That is, a half-saint weapon. As soon as the sword materialized, a huge gust of frigid air swept into the surroundings, as if heralding the arrival of the king. Brother Lu's lips immediately began twitching. To think that the fellow's sword would be a half-saint artifact as well. Does your family operate a weapons shop? Otherwise, how could you have so many good items in your possession? With a reddened face, Brother Lu asked hesitantly, ahem. Your sword is a little too sharp, so can you change to another one? The weapon in his grasp was only at spirit pinnacle, which was far weaker the other party's half-saint sword. Just the sharpness of the sword would boost the other party's fighting prowess by at least 50%. On the other hand, he would have to avoid a direct clash with the other party's sword as far as he could, which meant that his movements would be severely restricted. Change to another one. Zhang Xian frowned in irritation. When I sent Byzantium Lad against you, you said that I shouldn't rely too much on my capabilities as a beast tamer. When I sent the Golden Origin Cauldron against you, you said that I shouldn't rely too much on my saint-tier artifacts. Now, you are even picking on my sword. At this rate, are you going to start picking on my clothes next? But as displeased as Zhang Xian was, he eventually nodded. Forget it. Since you were injured previously, I will just acquiesce to your request. He scanned his surroundings for a moment before reaching forward to grab a certain object. With a smile, he said, I will fight with you using this then. A blade of foxtail grass. Hu Yaoyao and the others staggered weakly. The object that Zhang Xian had just picked was indeed a narrow blade of foxtail grass. He was going to fight with that. But his opponent was a half-saint, and an extraordinarily powerful one at that. Even if you have achieved a breakthrough, is it really fine for you to do that? Noticing their worry, Zhang Xian chuckled lightly as he placed the foxtail grass in between his forefinger and middle finger. Pumping a surge of Jinqi into it, the bent foxtail grass immediately became taut, as if a real sword. The essence of swordsmanship lies not in the sword. To a true sword master, even a blade of grass or pebble from the side of the street can serve as a sword. This might be foxtail grass, but if used well, it can display astonishing power as well. As he said those words, Zhang Xian gently slit the foxtail grass through the thick tree trunk that the Byzantium Helios beast had tossed to the ground earlier, and it was immediately sliced into two halves. What pure zhenqi! Brother Lu narrowed his eyes in astonishment. Even though the other party was wielding a blade of foxtail grass, its true edge lay in his zhenqi. But to be able to make one's zhenqi as sharp as a sword's edge, just how pure must his zhenqi be? At the very least, he knew that he was incapable of doing the same. Let's start. Knowing that the other party would still be a formidable opponent even when wielding a blade of foxtail grass as a weapon, Brother Lu let out a battle cry and charged forward, taking the initiative. Wang! His sword, imbued with sword qi, sliced through the air with incredible momentum. From the very start, he was already using his full strength. He knew better than to underestimate his opponent due to his lower cultivation or his choice of weapon. Come! With a light chuckle, Zhang Xian raised his foxtail grass and stabbed it toward the other party's armpit like a rapier. All sword practitioners shared a common weakness. When they swung their swords, the area around the armpit would be open, even if just for the briefest of moments. This was a weakness commonly exploited against sword practitioners. But naturally, most sword experts would have already trained themselves to guard that area perfectly. And Brother Lu was no exception to the rule. Voila! Even though Brother Lu was perplexed as to why the other party would use such a basic move to deal with him, he dared not to make light of the other party's counterattack. With a powerful flick of his wrist, he pulled his sword back to seal the advancement of the other party's foxtail grass, and at the same time, he sent a powerful blast of sword qi straight toward Zhang Xian's glabella. In a single move, he managed to defend himself while launching a counterattack simultaneously, successfully turning the tides of the battle in his favor. Not bad, your reflexes are good. However, that's not enough. Zhang Xian said with a chuckle. In the next instant, his foxtail grass abruptly bent like a flexible rope, completely bypassing the other party's sword. What? Caught off guard by the unexpected twist, Brother Lu's face paled in shock. With the bending of the other party's foxtail grass, not only was his defense rendered ineffective, more importantly, the tip of the foxtail grass was heading straight for a major acupoint on his chest. If he failed to dodge this, he would be severely wounded. After all, he had witnessed how formidable the might of the other party's foxtail grass was when the tree trunk was easily split in two with a light flick earlier. Not daring to take any risks, Brother Lu hurriedly retreated a few steps back. Hee. On the other hand, Zhang Xian seemed to have expected Brother Lu to respond in such a way. He leaped forward, closing the distance between them in an instant. At the same time, the foxtail grass in his hand straightened as it lunged forward, this time directed at Brother Lu's throat. Despite the abrupt change in movements, the maneuver was completed extremely smoothly and elegantly, making it peculiarly pleasing to the eye. While others were appreciating the gracefulness of the movement, Brother Lu felt as if the Grim Reaper was pulling him down instead. If he were to stop at this instant, his throat would be impaled. Thus, with a pale face, he continued retreating hurriedly. On the other hand, Zhang Xian continued to pursue him relentlessly, and this time, his foxtail grass was aimed for the other party's shanzhong acupoint, located at the center of the chest. Helpless, Brother Lu could only continue retreating. The foxtail grass moved around flexibly in Zhang Xian's hands, aiming for the gaps in the half-saint cultivator's swordsmanship precisely with every move. Frightened, Brother Lu didn't dare retaliate and could only retreat endlessly. From the start of the battle to this point, the sword had never come into contact with the foxtail grass at all. How powerful! Hu Yaoyao, Dong Xian, and the others glanced at one another, and they couldn't help but gulp. They had gotten a glimpse of Brother Lu's strength earlier from the aura he exuded, and even an average nascent saint wouldn't be a match for him. But it was only after witnessing Zhang Shi's prowess that they realized what true power was. Using a blade of foxtail grass to face a spirit pinnacle weapon directly, but not only was the foxtail grass not severed, it was even able to force the other party back continuously. Just how deep of an understanding of swordsmanship did one need to possess to do this? It seems that Brother Lu's defeat is sealed. Shui Zhenyang muttered with clenched fists. Before the battle, he had thought that Zhang Xian still wouldn't be a match for the other party even with a half-saint sword in hand. But with this, he realized that he got it all wrong. It was Brother Lu who was never a match for Zhang Xian, and the difference between them was as clear as day. He couldn't help but feel thankful that he had acknowledged Jing Yang as his teacher then, thus becoming Zhang Xian's grand student. He could hardly imagine what would have happened to him if he had really faced Zhang Xian. Too scary. Peng. While the others were overwhelmed with shock, Brother Lu continued retreating under Zhang Xian's relentless assault, and finally, he found his back pressed against the cliff face, left with nowhere to escape anymore. Who? Zhang Xian's foxtail grass also stopped right before the other party's heart. I have lost. With a face as pale as a sheet of paper, Brother Lu hated to admit it, but he knew that it was his utter defeat. Pardon me. With a polite smile, Zhang Xian flicked his wrist, and the foxtail grass finally broke apart into 8 pieces, scattering on the floor. Wu Su, who had taken the entire battle into sight, muttered with quivering lips, 132 moves, but Brother Lu didn't even manage to nick the other party. Instead, he retreated a total of 77 steps and was eventually forced to cast aside his sword and admit defeat. Is this still the feat of a human? Chapter 870, Selling the Spirit Essence as Brother Lu's companion, Wu Su knew how powerful his swordsmanship was. Just slightly short of becoming a 100-man commander, Brother Lu's fighting prowess far surpassed that of his peers. 132 moves from such a powerful expert, and yet, not a single one had managed to nick the other party's clothes or even the weapon at that. Instead, he had been forced back 77 steps before being eventually cornered. Just how powerful was the other party to be able to accomplish this feat? Thinking about, it was laughable how confident they had been in their strength to have challenged the other party to a duel. They had simply humiliated themselves. Brother Lu. Wu Su hurriedly rushed over, only to see the latter's ashen face, seemingly having suffered a heavy shock. A moment later, Brother Lu sighed in resignation and waved his hands weakly. Hand him 300 high-tier spirit stones. 100 high-tier spirit stones had been at stake for the first duel, and the stakes had been doubled for the second. All in all, he owed the other party 300 high-tier spirit stones. Yes. Wu Su gritted his teeth before wrapping a pile of high-tier spirit stones with his jinqi and handing them over. There were 300 of them, no more, no less. I will be accepting them then. Upon seeing the spirit stones, Zhang Xian's eyes lit up, and he quickly stowed them in his storage ring. Even though the other party had agreed to the bet, he hadn't really expected the other party to pay him. After all, 300 high-tier spirit stones wasn't a small sum. It would be difficult for even a figure of school head Mo standing to take out so much money on the spur of the moment. Yet, the other party had handed him the sum so easily. Could it be that these two are not only strong but are actually tycoons as well? If that is the case, I should really start thinking about how I could knock some more spirit stones out of them. Stroking his lower jaws, Zhang Xian fell into deep thought. Recovering from the shock of his defeat, Brother Lu clasped his fist and bowed. My name is Lu Cheng, and since I have lost, I shall not disturb you any further. However, I hope to learn of your name in hopes of challenging you once more in the future. A loss was a loss, he could only admit it. Not to mention, there was still a Byzantium Helios beast and a weapon cauldron glaring at him in hostility by the side. I am Zhang Xian. Zhang Xian nodded. You need not think of it that way, it was just a spar between peers. If I am not mistaken, the reason you are so desperate to obtain the scarlet firefly fruit is for Wu Shi over here to make a breakthrough to half-saint? Indeed. Lu Qing nodded. The main reason cultivators sought the scarlet firefly fruit was for the increased chances of achieving a breakthrough to half-saint. Since Lu Cheng was already a half-saint, the only reason for him to go through the effort of challenging them was for his close companion. Actually, I have taken a look at Wu Shi's condition when I was battling him earlier. The reason he was unable to achieve a breakthrough is not due to his lack of cultivation but... At this point, Zhang Xian paused for a moment. But? Wu Su asked anxiously. He had been trapped at Chrysalis Realm for too long. Most of his fellow peers had already overcome this bottleneck, racing ahead of him, so he couldn't help but be plagued with anxiety. It wasn't easy for him to learn about the existence of the scarlet firefly fruit in this valley, and he viewed it as his only chance. That was also the reason he had lost his composure and attacked Hu Yaoyao and the others when he realized that someone had gotten to the fruits ahead of him. If the man before him could help him achieve a breakthrough, it wouldn't matter anymore whether he obtained the scarlet firefly fruit or not. I believe that the reason you are unable to push for a breakthrough is due to your lack of Jinqi. Zhang Xian said. Lack of Jinqi? Lu Cheng and Wu Su frowned. Due to the special training they underwent, as well as the cultivation techniques and battle techniques they cultivated, their quantity and quality of Jinqi were far above those of ordinary master teachers. Yet, the young man before them had said that Wu Su suffered from a lack of Jinqi. Had it not been for the astounding prowess that the other party had shown them, they would have surely thought that he was spouting nonsense. Indeed. Your foundation might be far stronger than an ordinary cultivator, but that also means that the bottleneck you face is far more difficult than the others too. To use an analogy, others might require just a pail of Jinqi to achieve a breakthrough, but what you need is an entire lake. Zhang Xian said. This. Wu Su knew that the other party was right. He possessed extraordinary strength among his peers, but the hurdle he had to face with each breakthrough was higher as well. This wasn't much trouble in his earlier cultivation, but half-saint happened to be an exceptionally difficult hurdle to overcome. This is indeed a common problem that practitioners of our school suffer from. Lu Cheng sighed deeply. Zhang Shi, is there any way to resolve this problem? To possess strength superior to one's peers, one would have to reinforce one's cultivation over and over again, making it sturdier and stronger than the others. However, the more reinforced one's cultivation was, the harder it was to achieve a breakthrough. This was similar to building a castle. To build a sturdier castle, one would have to build a stronger supporting structure. However, that would also mean that one would have to devote more resources and time for that. This was the problem Wu Su was facing at the moment. Due to their strict training, their Jinqi was condensed to be far purer than others, granting them nigh invincible prowess among their peers. However, the bottlenecks they faced were also more difficult to overcome in comparison. Zhang Xian hesitated for a moment before replying. I do have a solution for that, but it will be quite troublesome. You do? Lu Cheng had only asked this question casually, not hoping for a positive answer. However, hearing that Zhang Xian really had a solution, his eyes immediately lit up, and he quickly shot his companion a meaningful gaze. Grasping the intention behind Lu Cheng's gaze, Wu Su hurriedly suppressed his agitation and clasped his fist. As long as Zhang Shi can help me achieve a breakthrough, I am willing to pay any price. For the young man before him to possess such formidable strength at such a young age, he must have come from a powerful background, so he might just know of some means that could help him successfully achieve a breakthrough. The solution is actually really simple. Since you are unable to gather sufficient Jinqi to achieve a breakthrough, you can easily make up for that by increasing the rate you absorb external spiritual energy at to make up for the deficiency, Zhang Xian said. Increase the rate I absorb external spiritual energy at. Hearing Zhang Xian's solution, Wu Su shook his head bitterly. I have used quite a number of high-tier spirit stones to push for my breakthrough, but I have still been unable to build up sufficient momentum to overcome the half-saint bottleneck. For a person who could whip out 300 high-tier spirit stones at a whim, Wu Su was definitely not a person who lacked spirit stones. Since he couldn't achieve a breakthrough even with sufficient spirit stones at hand, what else could he do to increase the rate he absorbed spiritual energy at? High-tier spirit stones do indeed help to make up for the deficiency, but their effectiveness is limited due to the long duration required to process the spiritual energy contained within them into Zhenqi. Zhang Xian shook his head. In a sense, high-tier spirit stones were like beef. They were effective in staving off hunger, but it wasn't easy to digest them. You're right, but what else can I use if not spirit stones? Wu Su asked. The reason the spiritual energy within spirit stones is harder to process is due to the solid form the spiritual energy is in. If you were to use spirit essence instead, the rate you could absorb spiritual energy at and convert it into Zhenqi would be at least 3 times faster, and that should be sufficient for you to achieve a breakthrough to half-saint. Zhang Xian said. If spirit stones were beef, spirit essence was porridge, easily digestible. Lu Qing pondered for a moment before frowning. Spirit essence? Do you mean earth vein spirit essence? There were many forms of spirit essence, but the one that was most effective for half-saints was the earth vein spirit essence. The rest would be less effective than high-tier spirit stones. Zhang Xian nodded. That's right. This spirit essence is formed through the accumulation of the spiritual energy contained in the earth veins. Not only is the spiritual energy pure, it is also easily absorbed and converted into Zhenqi. If Wu Shi absorbs it, he should be able to gather sufficient Zhenqi within a short period of time to overcome his bottleneck. But the earth vein spirit essence is only found in grounds rich in spiritual energy, and those lands are often occupied by dominant powers, so it is even harder to procure it than scarlet firefly fruits. Where are we supposed to find any? Wu Su said with a bitter smile. Everyone knew that the earth vein spirit essence was good stuff, but obtaining it was easier said than done. Even if he knew it could help him achieve a breakthrough, he had to find a way to obtain it first. Out of a stroke of luck, I managed to obtain a bit of it. However, I was planning to use it to overcome my half-saint bottleneck. Zhang Xian said hesitantly. You have earth vein spirit essence with you? Wu Su's eyes immediately lit up in excitement. Can you sell it to me? I am willing to buy it using high-tier spirit stones. A conflicted expression surfaced on Zhang Xian's face. You also know how difficult it is to obtain earth vein spirit essence, and I don't have too much of it either. I'm afraid that I can't sell it to you. After a moment of thought, Wu Su gritted his teeth and said, Brother Zhang, I am willing to buy it at 2 times the market price. He had to reach half-saint as soon as possible or else he would risk being eliminated. This was a rare opportunity, and he couldn't miss it, no matter the price he had to pay. 2 times? Zhang Xian pondered for a long moment before reluctantly nodding in agreement. All right, seeing that you need it so much, as a fellow master teacher, I will make an exception and sell it to you. After which, he flicked his wrist and took out a massive gourd containing around 7 liters of spirit essence. This is all of the earth vein spirit essence that I have collected thus far, I will give it to you then. Zhang Xian waved his hands. Wu Su hurriedly took the gourd and uncapped the cork, and he immediately saw that it was filled to the brim with earth vein spirit essence. The spiritual energy that gushed out of the opening left his cells feeling energized and refreshed. Thank you, Zhang Shi. Seeing that the other party was willing to give all of the earth vein spirit essence he had gathered to him, Wu Su immediately clasped his fist in agitation and thanked him. After which, he went to Lu Cheng and pooled some stuff together before stowing them away in a storage ring. As we left our place in a hurry, we didn't bring too many spirit stones with us. We know the high-tier spirit stones we have won't be enough to make up for the value of the earth vein spirit essence, so we placed some of the valuables we have accumulated over the years in as well. I hope that Zhang Shi can accept it, Wu Su said as he presented the storage ring over. Even though they knew that the young man before them probably didn't lack money, considering that he had a Saint Realm tamed beast and artifact, it would still be improper for them to take something from the other party for free, not to mention that they had agreed on paying double the price earlier. Taking the ring, Zhang Xian swept through the contents and saw over 200 high-tier spirit stones, a handful of grade 6 pills, and a bunch of valuable medicinal herbs. If it was in Hongyuan City, this gourd of earth vein spirit essence would probably only have been worth 50 high-tier spirit stones at most. Yet, the other party had given him so much money in return. It could be said that he had made a huge killing this time around. It was not that the other party was foolish, but that the value of an item was determined by the person's perceived necessity of it. Ordinary cultivators could achieve breakthroughs with high-tier spirit stones just fine, so they didn't require the earth vein spirit essence. As a result, its perceived value would be lower to them. Rest well and condition your body to its peak state. With the earth vein spirit essence, you should be able to push for a breakthrough in a single try. Zhang Xian said after putting away the storage ring. Yes. Wu Su nodded. He had suffered a punch from Zhang Xian earlier, and even up to this point, he hadn't fully recovered from it yet. To maximize his chances of reaching half-saint, he should only attempt a breakthrough once he was in his peak state. Thank you, Zhang Shi. The both of us will take our leave now. Having obtained what they wanted, the duo clasped their fists, turned around, and left. In just a few moments, they had already disappeared from sight. With the departure of the duo, Hu Yaoyao and the others finally heaved a sigh of relief. Zhang Shi, thank you for saving our lives. Before, they had thought that Zhang Xian was only terrifying in his supporting occupations. However, with this experience, they learned that his talent for his supporting occupations was nothing compared to his fighting prowess. Chapter 871, Breakthroughs. If I am not mistaken, the both of them are combat masters, right? Exhaling deeply, the tension left Zhang Xian's body, and the exhaustion accumulated over that whole period finally set in. Even though he seemed to have won the battle against Lu Qing easily, he'd had to concentrate deeply as he couldn't afford to make the slightest error. Thus, even though the battle had only lasted for a few minutes, it had sapped Zhang Xian's energy dry. Dong Exan nodded in agreement. To possess such fighting prowess at such a young age, and considering the different master-teacher robes that they have, they should indeed be combat masters. She had read a fair number of books, and she knew how fearsome combat masters were. She hadn't really thought much into it before, but with Zhang Xian raising the topic, it suddenly dawned on her. Those two might just really be combat masters. Otherwise, given that most master teachers cultivated a variety of supporting occupations, rarely would they compete with one another directly in a physical duel. Combat masters? The others also glanced at one another before nodding in agreement. Indeed. Only the legendary combat masters, who boasted the greatest fighting prowess among the master teachers, could wield such strength. That would explain why a fellow Chrysalis realm cultivator could subdue the four of them so easily. Wait. If Zhang Shi can defeat a combat master that easily, doesn't that mean that he is qualified to become a combat master as well? Hu Yaoyao exclaimed in astonishment. Easily? Zhang Xian shook his head with a bitter smile. He went easy on me, or else it is questionable whether I would have been able to defeat him or not. It might seem as if he had won with ease in the eyes of others, but he knew that wasn't the case. Went easy on you? The others were perplexed. You used a blade of foxtail grass while the other party used a spirit pinnacle weapon. On top of that, the other party was unable to even land a single blow on you, so how could he have possibly gone easy on you? Zhang Xian shook his head. If I had wielded a spirit pinnacle weapon just like him, it is hard to tell which of us would have emerged triumphant. That Lu Qing is a proud person. He didn't want to take advantage of the disparity in our weapons, so he curbed his own swordsmanship. On top of that, I intentionally sliced the tree trunk in two before the battle to create a vivid impression of the prowess of the weapon in his mind. Those were what caused him to retreat continuously. Otherwise, it would have been difficult for me to win against him. It might have seemed like an ordinary fight, but before the duel began, the other party had already fallen for Zhang Xian's mind games. I see. It was at this instant that realization struck them. The foxtail grass was an unimpressive weapon, but in a single move, Zhang Xian had sliced the tree trunk in two, instilling fear into the minds of those who had seen the sight. Lu Cheng was probably the same as well, which led to his subconscious unwillingness to face the foxtail grass head-on. As a result, he had found himself unable to take back the initiative and turn the tides of the battle, thus eventually resulting in his loss. Forget it, it's already over. Here are the scarlet firefly fruits. Condition yourselves well before consuming them. Try to achieve a breakthrough before we return to the academy. Zhang Xian flicked his wrist and passed the fruits over. Zhang Shi really managed to obtain the fruits? How could they be in your hands? None of them could believe it. They had been watching the cavern intently the whole time, and they had only seen Lu Cheng and Wu Su entering it. But if Zhang Xian had never entered the cavern, how could the scarlet firefly fruits be in his hands? I found another entrance behind the valley and sneaked in from there, Zhang Xian replied casually. Naturally, he couldn't talk about his means as a soul oracle. In any case, the items were already in his hands, so the others probably wouldn't be bothered to check on his story either. Incredible. Nevertheless, the others were still impressed. To stumble upon another entrance, it had indeed been the correct decision to invite him over. Here is some earth vein spirit essence, I will give a gourd to each of you. After recuperating, try your best to make a breakthrough to half-saint. Flicking his wrist, Zhang Xian took out 4 gourds of earth vein spirit essence and passed them over. These 4 gourds were significantly smaller than the one given to Wu Su earlier, but it was still worth quite a sum, considering that it was filled with earth vein spirit essence. At the very least, it was definitely worth more than the origin heavy water that they had bought earlier. This. Thank you, Zhang Shi. After seeing Zhang Xian sell a gourd earlier, they knew that the gourd they had just received was at least worth 50 high-tier spirit stones. To give it to them just like that. How could they ever return the favor? With reddened eyes, they mustered their determination, knowing that they had to successfully make a breakthrough so as to not let down Zhang Xian's expectations. Gugugugu. With the Byzantium Helios beast and golden origin cauldron guarding them by the side, they need not worry about anyone disturbing them here. Thus, sitting cross-legged on the ground, they began to cultivate. 6 hours later, once they had managed to reach their peak condition, they devoured a scarlet firefly fruit each. As expected of the divine medicine that could raise the chances of a breakthrough to half-saint, as soon they consumed it, they immediately felt their psyche growing stronger. Hu Yaoyao, under Zhang Xian's tutelage, was the first one to achieve a breakthrough. The second person to succeed was Dong Xian. After the events at the Elder Hall, her mind had grown much more resilient than before. This state of mind would help her achieve greater heights in her cultivation in the future. Following her was Shui Zhenyang. After listening to Wang Ying and the others' teachings on the basics of cultivation, he had managed to reinforce his cultivation further. Even though he was the third one to achieve a breakthrough, his cultivation was considerably more stable than the other two. However, the last one, Long Cangyue, wasn't as lucky. After failing 4 times consecutively, he felt a sense of fatigue creeping up on him. Knowing that it was impossible for him to succeed that day, he could only sigh in disappointment and stop there. Initially, there hadn't been much of a difference between the 4 of them. However, 3 of them had succeeded in achieving a breakthrough, and he was the only one to have failed. It wasn't too difficult to imagine his current emotions. The 3 of them are Zhang Shi's apprentice, grand student, and great-grand student, so they have received his guidance. On the other hand, due to my overthinking of matters and my pride, I ended up being the furthest away from him. Long Cangyue shook his head bitterly. In one way or another, the other 3 were related to Zhang Shi, so they had received his guidance. But he, due to his excessive worries, had chosen to stay out of Zhang Shi's way, and the outcome was him eventually lagging behind the others. If he had known this was the case, regardless of whether he would have become Zhang Shi's great-great-grand student or anything else, he would have tried to strike up a connection with the latter somehow. Seeing through Long Cangyue's thoughts, Zhang Xian offered a word of advice. What you are lacking is not strength but confidence. Due to your indecisive character, you are unable to rid yourself of your hesitation and charge forward, which has led to your inability to build up sufficient momentum to achieve a breakthrough to half-saint. If one were to ask whether he had played a part in the successful breakthrough of the other three, the answer would be yes. The points that he listed in his guidance were often direct and spot on. If one were to cultivate as he had advised, it would indeed be much easier to achieve a breakthrough. However, making a breakthrough to half-saint wasn't just a problem of strength. One's mind also played a huge part as well. Hu Yaoyao had a willful and decisive personality, allowing her to make prompt decisions and commit to them. Dong Xian's mind had been tempered to be more resilient after the setback she had suffered back in the Elder Hall. Shui Zhenyang had a straightforward personality, which allowed him to charge forward without any hesitation. On the other hand, Long Sangyue was an indecisive worrywart, which made it difficult for him to put his mind entirely into something. It was such a personality that made it difficult for him to succeed. Upon hearing Zhang Xian's words, Long Sangyue suddenly felt enlightened. Zhang Shi's teaching is right. Gathering his remaining strength, he sat down and began cultivating, embracing the determination to lose his life if he were to fail. Hung long long. He drove his Jinqi and rammed it furiously into his spiritual sea. A long moment later, he finally felt the invisible ceiling that had been limiting him loosening before abruptly falling apart. Half-saint, reached. By the side, the Byzantium Helios beast and the golden origin cauldron gasped in awe. Incredible. Their master might be young, but he had a deep insight into cultivation and the human psyche. His analyses were often spot on, directed at the very root of a problem. More importantly, he never discriminated in his guidance. Be it to an ally or a rival, he would offer them his pointers unreservedly. Such magnanimity was rare even among master teachers. Having reached half-saint, Long Sangyue shed the haughty attitude he once had and bowed deeply to Zhang Xian, thanking him earnestly from the bottom of his heart. Thank you, Zhang Shi. All right, let's return. Having achieved their goal here, there was no longer any need to remain there. Thus, he stepped onto the back of the Byzantium Helios beast to return to Hongyuan City. Shortly after Lu Cheng and Wu Su left the valley, they suddenly halted. Brother Lu, why didn't you use your full strength against Zhang Shi earlier? Wu Su had been overwhelmed by the outcome of the battle earlier, but after giving the matter some thought on the way, he couldn't help but feel that something was amiss. He knew very well how powerful Brother Lu was, and there were many powerful moves that he hadn't executed in the duel before he fell in defeat. It was clear that the latter had gone easy on Zhang Shi earlier. I didn't use my full strength. Lu Cheng shook his head, and the next moment, his body abruptly faltered weakly, and he spurted a mouthful of blood. Brother Lu. Not expecting Brother Lu's injuries to be so severe, Wu Su hurriedly helped him to a nearby boulder to rest before feeding him another pill. Seeing the other party's complexion alleviate, he heaved a sigh of relief before asking, Brother Lu, this. After recovering slightly from his injuries, Brother Lu shook his head and said, there were indeed many powerful moves that I didn't execute in the duel, but it isn't that I was unwilling to use them, I couldn't use them at all. You couldn't use them? Even though it might seem as if he was underestimating me by wielding a blade of foxtail grass against me, in truth, every single move he made was aimed perfectly at my opening, leaving me incapable of driving my Jinqi properly to execute my most powerful moves at all. Brother Lu said with a bitter smile. The duel might have already ended, but just at the thought of how he had been cornered by the other party's astounding eye of discernment, he couldn't help but shudder. He had tried multiple times to execute his strongest sword art, but he had been stopped by the other party's foxtail grass before he could even gather the momentum for it. It was just like how a river impeded every now and then couldn't possibly build up the momentum to form a devastating flood. You were unable to drive your Jinqi properly. Wu Su was taken aback. That's right. What's fearsome about Zhang Shi isn't just his overwhelming strength that allowed him to challenge even those stronger than him, but his terrifyingly discerning eyes. It was as if he had studied every single one of my moves in advance, seeing through their flaws and intercepting them the moment I executed them. In truth, from the very first move, I already knew that I had lost. The remaining 100 moves could only be considered the other party's attempt to spare my dignity. Brother Lu shook his head. How can that be? Wu Su could hardly believe what he was hearing. He knew how powerful his companion was. To lose in a single strike, that was impossible. Furthermore, he had been watching the battle all along, and he didn't notice any hint of Zhang Shi going easy on Brother Lu at all. You don't believe me? Alright, I will tell you the truth then. In truth, the injury from the Byzantium Helios beast and the cauldron was more severe than I thought. Even though I had 2 hours to recuperate, I wasn't able to fully recover from my injuries. You should be well aware of this, too. Brother Lu explained. Wu Su nodded. He had been beside Brother Lu while he was recuperating, so he had a clear view of the extent of the latter's injuries. Thus, I made use of a secret art to suppress my injuries temporarily for the duel. Coming from the same lineage, you should be well aware of what the secret art is, Brother Lu said. Are you referring to the Hupa recuperation art left behind by Elder Hupa? Wu Su asked. Chapter 872, The Bodhi Saint Tree is Dying. Indeed, it's the Hupa recuperation art. Lu Qing nodded. Do you know its effects? According to what I know, this secret art doesn't really treat one's injuries. Instead, it aims to trigger the potential of one's body, suppressing one's injuries so as to draw one's fighting prowess to the peak temporarily. This is an emergency maneuver that we combat masters only use under desperate circumstances on the battlefield, Wu Su replied. Just as Zhang Xian had guessed, they were combat masters. As the warriors of the Master-Teacher Pavilion, it was inevitable that they would have to face deadly battles frequently. On the battlefield, losing the ability to fight meant that one was just moments away from death. As such, an elder of the Combat Master Hall, Hupa, created such a secret art aimed not to heal one's injuries, but to trigger the potential harnessed within the body to grant one the ability to disregard one's injuries and continue fighting. This secret art had managed to save many combat masters from desperate circumstances. Eager to obtain the scarlet firefly fruit earlier, he had ended up using this secret art as well. You're right. Then, do you know the flaw of this secret art? Lu Qing asked. Wu Su nodded. The flaw is, as soon as the effects end, one's injuries will worsen. That's right, one's injuries will worsen, and there is a chance that one's cultivation might plummet as well. Lu Qing said grimly. Zhang Shi seemed to know the condition I was in, so he went easy on me from the very first move, and he chose to avoid the places where I was injured previously. Otherwise, I wouldn't have survived 3 moves, let alone 100. This. Wu Su still found the matter a little inconceivable, thinking that Brother Lu was just overthinking it. You don't believe me? Lu Qing shook his head. The Hupa recuperation art suppresses one's injuries by forcing it into a few acupoints. For me, it is the Hongmen and Zhanghui acupoints. If the other party had struck either of these 2 points, I would have suffered severe backlash from my injuries. Wu Su nodded in agreement. The essence of the secret art lay in manipulating one's Jinqi to seal one's injuries, and the Mingmen of these seals would be located on certain acupoints, depending on the cultivator themselves. Take a look at this. With a bitter smile, Lu Qing pointed to his clothes. Wu Su hurriedly took a look, and his eyes immediately narrowed in astonishment. On the area of the clothes corresponding to where Brother Lu's Hongmen and Zhanghui acupoints were located, there were small holes reminiscent of a thin needle. It would have been hard to notice them if one didn't take a closer look. These were left by him. Wu Su's voice quavered in fear as he spoke. Indeed. From the very first move, he had already noticed my weakness and swept his foxtail grass at those 2 points. Back then, I hadn't realized it yet, thinking that he might just not have sufficient power to complete the attack. However, the next moment, in order to avoid hurting me, he forcefully diverted his attack to my Shanzhong acupoint on my chest. As Lu Qing spoke, a hint of deference surfaced in his eyes. In truth, if it had been a life-and-death duel, he could have killed me in the very first blow. However, he chose to go easy on me. It was just that I wasn't aware of it then. This. Wu Su's face paled as it dawned on him what kind of figure he had just crossed earlier. To be able to go easy on his opponent in such an intense battle, was he still human? That was way too fearsome. Even I can hardly gauge the true prowess of Zhang Shi. He is truly like an unfathomable enigma. By no means should we ever make an enemy out of him again, Lu Qing said grimly. Yes. Wu Su nodded. Since even Brother Lu wasn't a match for Zhang Shi, there was no way he would dare to provoke the other party once more. Alright, you should hurry up and recuperate from your wounds, then you can attempt a breakthrough to Half-Saint. Once you succeed, you will be able to follow us to the 4 great academies to participate in the selection of new members and accomplish that mission. Otherwise, it will be an extremely long time before you get another chance. Lu Qing said. Don't worry, Brother Lu. I will surely succeed this time around. Wu Su said with great determination. On the journey back, Hu Yaoyao and the others spent most of their time reinforcing their Half-Saint cultivation, and Zhang Xian also used this time to reinforce his Chrysalis realm cultivation as well. It was a silent half-day journey back to the Hongyuan city. From their departure to their return, they had only taken slightly more than a day. When the sun started rising from the horizon once more, Hongyuan city was already in sight. A moment later, as Zhang Xian glanced downward, he was completely stunned. Is that my manor? What had been rubble when he last saw it had transformed into an exquisite manor that didn't pale in comparison even with the royal palace. On top of that, he could vaguely feel a handful of grade 6 formations that not only gathered spiritual energy in the area but wielded astounding offensive and defensive capabilities as well. What has happened? Zhang Xian was unable to understand what had happened during his absence. School head Zhao and the others had said that they would send someone to repair his manor for him, but did they really have to make it so extravagant? Outsiders might just think that this was the royal palace itself. Let's head down to take a look. After bidding Hu Yaoyao and the others farewell, Zhang Xian had the Byzantium Helios beast descend to the courtyard of the manor. As soon as they landed, Sun Chang immediately rushed up to greet him. What happened? Zhang Xian asked in bewilderment. It's the Hongyuan royal family. I tried to stop them, but they insisted on fixing the manor. In the end, I could only watch helplessly as they made this, Sun Chang said indignantly. In truth, he was also completely dumbfounded by the happenings as well. He could still understand it if the Master Teacher Academy had dispatched some men to fix their manor, but for the royal palace to get involved as well, and to go such great lengths at that. Just what were they up to? The royal palace? Zhang Xian blinked blankly. He had been kicked out of the royal palace by the emperor himself 2 nights ago. Why would the other party offer to fix his manor all of the sudden? That's right. Not only so, Emperor Shen Yuqing has also visited 3 times in your absence, requesting to meet you. Sun Chang said. He wants to meet me. Zhang Xian's bewilderment deepened. Were all emperors as unpredictable as that? It was as if they suffered from severe mood swings. But just as Zhang Xian was confused by the situation before him, one of the manor servants abruptly rushed in to report that Emperor Yu Shenqing had turned up once again. Invite him in. Zhang Xian waved his hands. Even though he had no idea what the other party was up to, it happened that he needed the other party's Bodhi Saint tree. This was a good opportunity to ask about it. Yes. Sun Chang headed out. A moment later, Zhang Xian met Emperor Yu Shenqing in the main hall. The latter clasped his fist upon meeting him and greeted, Zhang Shi. Zhang Xian gestured for him to take a seat before asking, "Your Majesty, I am thankful that you sent your men to fix my manor, but may I know the reason behind it? We had some misunderstanding the other night, so I hope that we can reconcile our differences through this," Yu Shenqing quickly replied. Misunderstanding? Zhang Xian shook his head. Don't worry about it, it's really nothing much. He hadn't really taken the matter that night to heart. After all, he was also at fault for destroying the other party's main hall and ruining the banquet. Seeing that there wasn't any hint of unhappiness on the other party's face, Yu Shenqing heaved a sigh of relief. I'm glad to see that Zhang Shi isn't angry about it. He had been worrying over this matter for the last 2 days, fearing that he had offended the other party, but it seemed like the other party hadn't taken the matter to heart. But that was no wonder as well. A person who could create and gift such a formidable set of cultivation techniques on a whim was likely to be a magnanimous person, unbothered by such trifling matters in the world. After chatting for a moment longer, Zhang Xian raised his request. I heard that the royal family has a Bodhi saint tree. If it isn't too much, may I borrow it for something? Bodhi saint tree? A conflicted expression surfaced on Yu Shenqing's face. It isn't convenient. Zhang Xian frowned. Since he had promised to save Wei Ruyan, he would keep his word. However, if Yu Shenqing were to refuse to lend him the Bodhi tree, there would be nothing he could do either. It isn't that. With a shake of his head, Yu Shenqing sighed deeply. To be honest with Zhang Shi, our Bodhi saint tree, for some unknown reason, started to wither some time ago. The situation has worsened particularly in the recent 2 years. I have tried all kinds of means, but I have been unable to reverse its declining condition. I fear that in its current state, it isn't too far from death anymore. Wither? Zhang Xian was taken aback. That's right. I have invited over 100 herbologists over the past 2 years, but none of them were able to resolve its illness, Yu Shenqing replied despondently. The condition of the Bodhi saint tree was a huge secret of the royal family, so he had been guarding it tightly all along. However, since Zhang Shi had asked about it, he could only reply honestly. Can you take me over to take a look? Zhang Xian asked after a moment of thought. Zhang Shi wants to take a look. Yu Shenqing asked in astonishment. Indeed. I do know a thing or two about herbology too, so I might just be able to help you on this matter, Zhang Xian explained. He had once solved a problem for a herbologist back in the Myriad Kingdom Alliance, so he wasn't unfamiliar with the occupation. Hearing those words, Yu Shenqing's eyes lit up, and he nearly leaped up in excitement. Zhang Shi is knowledgeable in herbology as well? That's great. His ears were already on the verge of growing calluses from hearing about the incredible deeds that Zhang Shi had accomplished. After 2 years of effort, he already didn't harbor much hope for the recovery of the Saint Bodhi tree. However, if Zhang Shi were to make a move, there might still be a chance for it to happen. Without any hesitation, he immediately brought Zhang Shi on board the Saint Beast he had arrived on and headed back to the royal palace. Upon landing in the royal palace, Yu Shenqing led the way, and after twisting and turning about numerous roads, they finally arrived at a residence. The Bodhi saint tree is right inside. Yu Shenqing said as he gestured toward the building. Here. Zhang Xian frowned. He had never been to this residence before, but he couldn't help but notice that there were no formations set up in the area. Considering how valuable the Bodhi saint tree was it really fine to leave it lying around without any protection? Noticing Zhang Xian's doubts, Yu Shenqing answered, the Bodhi saint tree is only useful for those who practice soul cultivation techniques, so, perhaps in the whole of Hengyuan Empire, it only has value to our Yu clan. Others wouldn't benefit from it. Besides, having reached Saint Realm, it already possesses its own sentience, and it detests being surrounded by formations, so. I see. Zhang Xian nodded. Formidable saint herbs, just like saint-tier artifacts, possessed sentience. It was harder to absorb spiritual energy from the surroundings if they were surrounded by formations, so they loathed it. While speaking, the duo entered the residence, and a few elders within immediately walked over and greeted respectfully, "Your Majesty." These elders were all Saint Realm experts, and they were probably stationed there to take care of the Bodhi Saint tree. "Zhang Shi, this is the Bodhi Saint tree." Zhang Xian turned his gaze over and saw a majestic tree in the middle of the courtyard. It had an extremely thick trunk, and it towered at a height of around a dozen meters tall. However, the leaves on its branches were shriveled and sparse, and traces of white had surfaced on the tree trunk as well. It didn't seem to be in a good condition. Indeed, the Bodhi Saint tree is nearing death. Zhang Xian frowned deeply. It was spring, the season when everything came to life and vitality permeated the air, but the massive tree was showing clear signs of decline. There was no doubt that it was extremely ill. Had it not been for the royal family pumping in endless resources to sustain its life, it might have already died. Unable to determine its condition from a distance away, Zhang Xian asked, "Can I take a closer look?" "Of course, feel Fr." Yu Shenqing nodded, but before he could finish his words, one of the elders stepped forward and said, "Your Majesty, it is not advisable for anyone to approach the Bodhi Saint tree now." "Elder Zhao, this is Zhang Shi. He possesses a deep understanding of herbology, so I invited him to treat the Bodhi Saint tree as well." Yu Shenqing quickly introduced. These elders were herbologists who he had gone to great lengths to invite here. If not for them, the Bodhi Saint tree might have long died. Treat the Bodhi Saint tree? A young brat like him? "Your Majesty, I think you should proceed warily, lest yet another scammer makes things difficult for us once more." Elder Zhao took a glance at Zhang Xian and frowned in displeasure. "Elder Zhao, Zhang Shi is different from those before. He is a man of great capability," Yu Shenqing said awkwardly. "Different? Your Majesty, you say the same words each time, but the results speak for themselves." Elder Zhao flung his sleeves and harumphed. "If you don't trust us, we can leave this instant. There is really no need for you to invite outsiders one after another to render our previous efforts futile." "Indeed. Your Majesty, if you don't trust us, we can leave right now." The other elders also chirped in agreement, clearly displeased by Zhang Xian's arrival. Yu Shenqing hurriedly tried to appease them. "Of course, I trust you all. Otherwise, I wouldn't have entrusted the most important Bodhi Saint tree of our Yu clan to you." Elder Zhao harumphed. "Your Majesty, if you trust us, we will have to ask you not to invite these kinds of shady figures to interfere with our work. The Bodhi Saint tree's condition is already very complicated as it is, and we might not be so lucky as to successfully save it the next time someone you invited over screws it up once more. We will try our best, but whether we succeed or not will depend on fate." Over the years, Yu Shenqing had invited many herbologists to take a look at the Bodhi Saint tree's conditions, and there were plenty of them who had given empty promises, hoping that they could succeed by some stroke of luck and make a name for themselves. However, not only did they fail tragically, they even worsened the Bodhi Saint tree's state. It was these elders who had to work tirelessly for days in order to stabilize its condition. This was precisely the reason why they felt extremely frustrated whenever Yu Shenqing tried to bring someone new over. Such an emotion was exacerbated when Yu Shenqing introduced a young lad who was barely in his early 20s as someone who possessed a deep understanding of herbology. Like hell they would believe that. Even though herbologist wasn't officially recognized as a nine paths occupation, it did have its own heritage. Similar to the physicians, it was an occupation containing deep wisdom within it, and the knowledge one learned had to be corroborated with practice as well. For a young lad who was barely in his early 20s, even if he had started studying from the day he was born, how much could he possibly have learned? Yu Shenqing was conflicted. If it was in the field of pill forging or smithing, he would harbor no doubts about Zhang Shi's capability. But herbology, he really couldn't say for sure. Just as Yu Shenqing was still in a dilemma, not sure who he should side with, the young man beside him ignored everyone and walked straight toward the Bodhi Saint tree. There was a formation set up around the tree in order to protect it from further harm, but the young man walked past it as if it were non-existent. In just a short moment, he was already standing before the tree. He then raised his hand and placed his palm on its thick trunk. "What are you doing?" Not expecting that young lad to disregard them and head straight for the tree, touching it even, Elder Zhao and the others bellowed furiously. They felt as if their authority had been challenged, and they glared at the young lad in hostility. "I am not doing anything," Zhang Xian replied innocently. After which, he turned to Yu Shenqing and said, "If those fellows want to leave, let them. It's not like they are doing any good around here." The elders immediately lashed out furiously. "What did you say? Lad, where are you from? There are just this many herbologist clans in Hongyuan Empire, which one are you from? You sure are haughty for someone your age." Yu Shenqing had also brought in plenty of renowned herbologists before, but there were none who had dared disrespect them like that. After all, they were second to none in the field of herbology in Hongyuan Empire. It was one thing for that fellow to have disregarded them and overstepped his bounds, but to question their professionalism on top of that. How dare he? What I said is a fact. It's such a simple illness, but none of you managed to see through it, even saying that it would depend on fate. Are you here to treat the Bodhi Saint tree or to hasten its death? Zhang Xian replied calmly. He had already noticed some problems when he assessed the tree via the eye of insight when he first arrived. However, he wasn't too sure whether his analysis was right or not, so he decided to step forward and check via the Library of Heaven's path as well. The result was similar to what he had deduced. The illness was, in truth, not very complicated, but it was extremely difficult to diagnose it accurately by examining just the exterior of the tree. "You." Elder Zhao's eyebrows shot up disdainfully as he uttered coldly, "Simple. So, you are saying that you know what illness the Bodhi Saint tree is suffering from? Speak then, I sure look forward to hearing what comes out of your mouth. Even if I tell you, will you understand?" Zhang Xian replied impassively. Given that these fellows had failed to determine the root of the Bodhi Saint tree's illness despite spending so much time analyzing and treating it, it was doubtful whether or not they would believe him even if he were to tell them. "You." Elder Zhao and the others felt as if their veins would rupture from sheer rage. As the top herbologists of Hongyuan Empire, they had always been the ones to look down on others. This was the first time in a long while that someone had dared underestimate them like that. "Will we understand, you ask? Lad, does your clan know who you have just provoked? Just wait and see, soon, there won't be a place for you in the circle of herbologists in Hongyuan Empire." Zhang Xian turned to Yu Shenqing and urged, "Your Majesty, the Bodhi Saint tree's condition is dire, and we can't afford to delay it any longer. Otherwise, it might just die in the hands of these men." "Audacious. You said that the tree will die in our hands? You'd better explain yourself right now, or else I won't let this matter slide." Seeing that the young lad was getting more and more overboard with his words, Elder Zhao stepped forward and glared at the other party menacingly. A powerful aura burst forth from him, as if saying that he wouldn't hesitate to kill the other party should his words turn out to be nonsense. As a top-notch herbologist and a Saint Realm expert, Elder Zhao had always been respected no matter where he went, and even Emperor Yu Shenqing had to speak to him courteously. Yet, this young lad had actually dared to insult him like that. This was completely unacceptable. The 9-9 soul consonance formation, if I am not mistaken, serves to pump spiritual energy into the Bodhi Saint tree to stimulate its spirit, right? Zhang Xian asked calmly. "You know the 9-9 soul consonance formation?" Elder Zhao was slightly taken aback. Due to the young age and the arrogance of the lad before him, he had already regarded him as one of those incapable fame-seekers. Thus, he hadn't thought that the other party would be able to see through the essence of their treatment so quickly. The 9-9 soul consonance formation was a secret art passed down only among top herbologist clans. It had the ability to stimulate and nurture the spirit within spirit herbs and saint herbs, bringing vitality back to them. Most herbologists weren't even aware of it. From their diagnosis, they had determined the cause of the Bodhi saint tree's withering to be the dissipation of its spirit. That was why they had spent such a heavy price to set up this expensive formation, hoping to revitalize its spirit and bring it back to life. But for the young lad to speak in such a manner, could there be a problem with their treatment method? Of course. Not only that, you also gathered the spirit of 18 different saint herbs and tried to forcefully infuse them into the Bodhi saint tree, but it ended in failure, Zhang Xian said confidently. This. Elder Zhao and the other herbologists traded gazes, stumped by the situation before them. The other party was right. They had thought that they could swiftly revitalize the tree's spirit by infusing the spirits of other saint herbs into it, but the attempt had ended in a failure. As the result was unsatisfactory, they hadn't reported this matter to Yu Shenqing, so it was only known among them. How did this fellow learn of it? Did he deduce it with just a glance? But that was impossible. Matters regarding spirits and souls had always been an enigma to most of mankind. It might still be possible to deduce that a successful spirit infusion had occurred by looking at the spirit of the medicinal herb, but if it had been a failure, not even top herbologists like them would be able to discern it. How could the young lad before them deduce it accurately? This Bodhi saint tree has yet to die, and its spirit is still alive and kicking. Yet, you attempted to infuse another spirit into it to take over its body. It is really a blessing of the heavens that it hasn't died in your hands yet. To still be acting so arrogantly around here despite that, do you have not the slightest bit of shame? I really do wonder where you get your boldness and confidence from. Zhang Xian flung his sleeves majestically. You. Nonsense. We have checked using various means, and the spirit of the Bodhi saint tree has definitely disappeared. How could it still be alive? Elder Zhao's face reddened in agitation. Naturally, they understood the implications of a soul infusion, so they had checked over and over again to ensure that their diagnosis was correct. If the Bodhi saint tree still retained its spirit, how could they not be aware of it? Another elder stood forward and said, "Indeed. I checked for its spirit using the golden needle spirit detection method thrice, and the results were all negative. Furthermore, if its spirit was still around, how could it allow its body to wither like that?" Yet another elder nodded in agreement. I also used the exclusive green mist spirit detection method of my lineage, and I can testify that the tree has already lost its spirit. It was common knowledge that saint herbs possessed spirit. If one were to forcefully infuse a spirit into a saint herb that still retained its spirit, that would be practically no different from murdering the herb. If they, who prided themselves on their expertise in the field of herbology, had truly unintentionally killed a herb when they were supposed to save it, they would be too ashamed to continue living. Another elder waved his hands and harumphed. The spirit infusion might have failed, but it sprouted new leaves on the withered tree and alleviated the yellowing of the existent leaves. This is a clear sign of the Bodhi saint tree making a recovery. There's really no need for us to listen to the nonsense of an ignorant lad here. The others nodded in agreement to his words. The spirit infusion might have failed, but the fact that it had regained its green glow for even a short moment of time meant that their treatment was effective and they were moving in the correct direction. A clear sign that the Bodhi saint tree is making a recovery, you say? The leaves might have turned green, but have you checked the roots? Do they show signs of recovering? What about the tree trunk? Does it look healthier, or did the wither worsen? Zhang Xian scoffed. This. The elders immediately fell silent. They had checked the condition of the tree thoroughly after the spirit infusion, and the condition of the roots and the trunk seemed to have worsened considerably. But there was a period of adjustment, so it should be normal to see such conditions, right? The golden needle spirit detection method can indeed check for a herb's spirit, but how long is your golden needle? Can it reach the depths of the tree trunk? If the spirit is hidden in the depths, do you think that your detection method will be effective? Zhang Xian continued. This. The elders had no idea how to respond to this either. The golden needle spirit detection method responded only upon direct contact with the spirit. If it had been an ordinary medicinal herb, there wouldn't be any problem. However, considering the massive size of the Bodhi saint tree, there was indeed no guarantee that the needle would reach the spirit. Zhang Xian turned to the other elder and stated, a similar problem applies for the green mist spirit detection method as well. It works by triggering a response from a conscious spirit, but what if the spirit of the Bodhi saint tree is unconscious? Wouldn't the result you receive wrongly reflect that its spirit is dead? Ah! Realization struck the elder, and he fell silent as well. To the green mist spirit detection method, an unconscious spirit was deemed to be no different from a dead spirit. An elder abruptly interjected, enough. After all you have said, you still haven't told us how the Bodhi saint tree should be treated? If you can't come up with a solution, you are ultimately still the same as us. The others immediately nodded in agreement. The most important thing at hand was to save the Bodhi saint tree, everything else was secondary. A solution? Zhang Xian chuckled lightly before turning to Yu Shenqing. Your Majesty, I will have to trouble you to get your men to bring some pails of oil and a paper match over. I am going to burn the tree. Paper match is a rolled piece of paper that contains white phosphorus, nitrates, sulfur, and various other ingredients. When unrolled, it will come into contact with the air and light up. Burn it? You have been invited here to save the tree, not to burn it down. Ridiculous, this is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. Who doesn't know how to kill a tree? Do we still need you for that? Everyone was stunned for an instant after hearing Zhang Xian's words before bellowing furiously. There must be something wrong with your head. You spoke as if we were completely useless, but when asked for a solution, you proposed to burn the tree instead. The Bodhi saint tree was the very foundation of the Yu clan, and the herbologists had used every means at their disposal to treat it desperately, fearing that their failure would result in their heads being lopped off. That young lad had spoken as if he had some incredible means up his sleeves, but to think that the solution he proposed would be to burn down the tree. This was utter insanity. Yu Shenqing's body shook, and he nearly fainted on the spot as well. Watching Zhang Shi render the elders in the room speechless with his words earlier, he had seen a glimmer of hope for the Bodhi saint tree. But after hearing his solution, he realized that the other party was just toying with him. The Bodhi saint tree was already on the verge of death. If it were to be burned down, wouldn't it lose its life immediately? Noticing Yu Shenqing's hesitation, Zhang Xian's eyebrows shot up. I won't force you if you don't trust me. However, if you wish to save the Bodhi saint tree, you'd better make your decision quickly. Save? Yu Shenqing's lips twitched. Are you sure that you are really saving the Bodhi saint tree and not murdering it? That's right. Zhang Xian nodded before placing his hands behind his back and waiting patiently. Seeing the grim look on Zhang Shi's face, it didn't seem like the other party was joking around. After a moment of hesitation, Yu Shenqing turned around to the old eunuch, Luo Fu, and instructed, do as Zhang Shi says. Even though he still thought that it was ridiculous to burn down the tree, the fact that Zhang Xian was the principal of the Master Teacher Academy, along with the various incredible feats he had achieved, still convinced him to trust the other party this once. More importantly, those elders had been here for 2 years, but there wasn't the slightest improvement in the Bodhi saint tree's condition. It would be no exaggeration to say that the tree's death timer had already started ticking. Since Zhang Shi was so confident in the matter, perhaps it was worth giving his method a try, especially since there was no better solution at hand. If the tree still died eventually, it could only be said to be its fate. Your Majesty, I beseech you to reconsider your options. Don't listen to the lies of this fellow. The Bodhi saint tree is already in a very feeble state, it won't be able to survive being burned. Seeing that Yu Shenqing had really instructed his men to bring oil and a paper match over, Elder Zhao and the others immediately panicked, and they rushed forward to advise him otherwise. Please calm down. Zhang Shi is the PR, a very talented master teacher from the Master Teacher Academy. I believe there is a reason why he made such a decision. Yu Shenqing was just about to reveal Zhang Xian's other identity when he suddenly realized that this matter was supposed to remain a secret until the inauguration ceremony, so he could only quickly change his words. Seeing that Yu Shenqing was being beguiled by the young lad, Elder Zhao exclaimed in agitation, "I don't deny that master teachers are knowledgeable and discerning, but in the field of herbology, there is no one who can top us in Hongyuan Empire, and none of us here have ever heard of a saint herb being saved by being burned." They came from the top herbology clans with long heritages behind them. The wisdom of their predecessors had been passed down from one generation to the next, forming incredible compendiums of knowledge. Yet, despite being the successors of these compendiums of knowledge, none of them had ever heard of a herb being saved through burning. That was no different from drinking poison to alleviate one's thirst, a concept that completely went against the theories of herbology. It was something that could never happen. Indeed, each occupation has its own experts, and even master teachers can't possibly be knowledgeable about every single occupation in the world. After all, there is only one Kong Shi, another elder added. Legend had it that on top of being the founder of the Master Teacher Pavilion, Kong Shi had been skilled in many occupations as well. In fact, the heritage of many existing occupations had been compiled and organized by him. The young lad before them might be a formidable master teacher, but even master teachers weren't capable of everything. There were times when they, too, would fail. Hearing the words of the elders, Yu Shenqing's determination began to waver. However, thinking about Zhang Xian's identity, he eventually still gritted his teeth and said, "Say no more, I have already made up my mind. Let's just do as Zhang Shi instructs." While they were talking, the palace attendants had already brought pails of oil and a paper match into the room. Zhang Xian, upon seeing that Yu Shenqing was willing to put his trust in him at a crucial moment like this, nodded in satisfaction. He instructed the palace attendants to spill the pails of oil all over the tree, and when that was done, he blew on the paper match to light it up. In no haste to ignite the oil, Zhang Xian turned to the herbologists in the room and said, "There are countless herbologist clans in the world, and they each have their unique ways of cultivating and treating medicinal herbs. While you all might be considered to be the best herbologists in Hongyuan Empire, do you really believe that you have grasped all possible treatment methods in the world?" Elder Zhao and the others fell silent. The pursuit of knowledge is an endless race. Every day, new things were being discovered, and new heritages were being formed. Who would dare say that they had already seen it all? Not even Kong Shi would dare to arrogantly declare so. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been rendered speechless by the words of two young children while passing through a remote country back then. The spirit of the Bodhi Saint tree is not dead but asleep. You rushed into treating it without checking its condition thoroughly, nearly causing its death. Forget it, just watch and see. Shaking his head, Zhang Xian threw the paper match over. Hoo. As soon as the paper match came into contact with the oil, the entire tree immediately burst into flames. He really is burning the tree. The mouths of Elder Zhao and the others twitched uncontrollably. After spending 2 years with the Bodhi Saint tree, they already possessed some feelings for it. Thus, they couldn't help but feel a stabbing pain in their hearts as they watched the flames gradually devouring the tree. Yu Shenqing also couldn't help but clench his fists tightly as he watched the flames. At this point, he really didn't know whether he was right or not to trust Zhang Xian. On the other hand, Zhang Xian was staring at the flames intently, seemingly waiting for the right moment. Shortly after, he raised his hand and said, "Extinguish the flames." Yes. A few guards immediately rushed forward and stifled the flames around the Bodhi Saint tree with their zhenqi. Even the weakest of them was at the ethereal treading realm, and with their strength combined, it took barely more than a moment for them to extinguish the flames. With the flames gone, everyone got a clear glimpse of the current state of the Bodhi Saint tree. At this point, its exterior was charred black, and there wasn't the slightest hint of life from it. Without saying a word, Zhang Xian walked up to the tree and began striking it at certain locations while circling around it. After striking it consecutively 36 times, he finally came to a halt. Just as everyone was wondering what Zhang Xian was up to, the latter returned to Yu Shenqing and the others sighed and snapped his finger. Kacha! Kacha! The charred exterior of the tree abruptly burst apart. This! How is this possible? The sight that unfolded before their eyes left everyone stupefied. Beneath the charred exterior of the tree was a tree trunk only about an arm thick, but it was overflowing with vitality, like a young sprout blossoming from the old tree. It was just that it had been hidden beneath its withered exterior previously. But considering how the exterior was already nearing death, how could the insides of the tree still remain so vibrant? This sight was mystifying, and there was no one who could comprehend what was going on. Elder Zhao and the others had diagnosed and treated many herbs in their time, but they had never encountered or even heard of such a scenario before. Seeing the looks of incomprehension on the faces around him, Zhang Xian explained calmly, "It isn't because this Bodhi Saint tree is nearing death that it is unconscious. Instead, it was out of self-preservation by the spirit to protect its foundation that it chose to conceal itself in the core of the tree. As a result, the external layer was no longer sustained by the spirit, thus resulting in its death-like state. You overlooked this and forcefully infused another spirit into it. Through doing that, you nearly destroyed its remaining foundation. If you had really succeeded then, the Bodhi Saint tree would have already died by now." The bodies of Elder Zhao and the others shuddered in astonishment. The other party was right. Under the condition that the current spirit hadn't died yet, if a new spirit were to be infused into the body, it would result in a huge fight, and in the worst-case scenario, the two spirits might just end up killing one another. In other words, it was truly a blessing that they hadn't succeeded then. Otherwise, they would have been the culprits behind the Bodhi Saint tree's death. But Zhang Shi, the Bodhi Saint tree has been perfectly fine for many years. Why would it suddenly need to resort to a self-preservation maneuver? Yu Shenqing asked, puzzled. The others also turned doubtful gazes to Zhang Xian as well. I am not too sure about that either. Under normal circumstances, a spirit will only do that if it has suffered severe injuries. Try recalling this. In the period of time just before the Bodhi Saint tree started to wither, did anything happen? Zhang Xian said. The Library of Heaven's path had reflected the flaws of the Bodhi Saint tree, but it didn't delve into the reason for its condition, so he wasn't too sure either. I don't think that anything major happened in that period of time. Yu Shenqing frowned. 2 years ago. That should be around the time when the old principal of the Master Teacher Academy went missing. Oh right, the vice head of the physician school, Yu Su, visited once in that period of time to procure a seedling from the tree, saying that he wanted to try cultivating it to help locate the old principal's soul. Other than that, I don't think that there are any outsiders who have approached the tree. Yu Su. Zhang Xian frowned. That fellow was the culprit behind Wei Changfeng's death, and in order to let Wei Ruyan exact vengeance for her father personally, he had the other party imprisoned in his own manner for the time being. Was the other party related to this incident as well? That's right. Vice School Head Yu Su is a talented herbologist himself, so I invited him over to take a look at the Bodhi Saint tree's condition as well, but he wasn't able to tell what was wrong with it either, Yu Shenqing replied. I see. Forget it, let's put that matter aside for now. For the time being, we should find a way to awaken the spirit from its slumber first. Zhang Xian said. It had been 2 years since the Bodhi Saint tree was poisoned, so it would be difficult to track down the culprit now. Besides, this had nothing to do with him, so there was no need for him to get involved in the matter. Understanding this, Yu Shenqing also chose not to talk about it any further. Stepping forward, Zhang Xian walked up to the Bodhi Saint tree once more and placed his palm on it before falling into deep thought. A moment later, he flicked his wrist and took out a gigantic wine gourd. Uncorking the lid, a concentrated surge of spiritual energy immediately gushed into the surroundings. That is Earth Vein Spirit Essence. The eyes of Yu Shenqing and the elders lit up. Earth Vein Spirit Essence contained the energy of the earth, which made it exceptionally nourishing to medicinal herbs. It was an incredible treasure to herbologists. Pouring the Earth Vein Spirit Essence on the vigorous tree trunk, innumerable buds began growing at a rate visible to the eye on the bald tree, and they gradually sprouted to form lush leaves. The spirit has been awakened. Upon seeing this sight, Yu Shenqing and the other elders couldn't help but tremble in excitement. For the tree to undergo such rapid growth, it could only mean that the sleeping spirit of the Bodhi Saint tree had awakened. However, the Earth Vein Spirit Essence only had the effect of replenishing spiritual energy within saint herbs. It shouldn't have been capable of rousing an unconscious spirit. Just what kind of mystical means did Zhang Shi use? Usually, lighting up the paper match consists of blowing on it as well so as to increase its exposure to air. Chapter 875, Problem with the Myriad Anthive Nest. No, something is wrong. Contrary to the looks of delight on the faces of the crowd, Zhang Xian had a deep frown etched on his forehead. What had awakened the spirit wasn't the Earth Vein Spirit Essence but his Heaven's Path Shenqi. The Heaven's Path Shenqi was so rich in vitality that it could even easily neutralize lethal poison, so naturally, it had the ability to rouse the unconscious spirit within the Bodhi Saint tree as well. However, what had left a deep frown on his face was the realization that the spirit of the Bodhi Saint tree had been unconscious not just because it was injured but because it was poisoned. The Heaven's Path Shenqi was incredibly pure, allowing it to travel through the tree unobstructed. As such, he was able to catch a clear glimpse of the state of the Bodhi Saint tree's unconscious spirit. The spirit was indeed injured, but it wasn't severe enough to drive it into an unconscious state. What had truly sapped the spirit was a fight against a lethal poison that was ongoing even now. And most importantly of all, he actually recognized that lethal poison. It's the soul-purging poison. A peculiar glint flashed across Zhang Xian's eyes. Speaking of the soul-purging poison, most, including the school heads of the Master Teacher Academy, might be unfamiliar with the name. However, if one were to define it as the lethal poison concocted using the green-leafed heart nexus plant and the soulless flower, most should understand what it was in an instant. It was the lethal poison Yu Su had given him during the life-and-death physician duel. This poison, once consumed, would immediately corrode one's heart and mind, resulting in a swift death. Not even Saint Realm experts would be spared from this tragic outcome. Even though the Bodhi Saint tree was a saint herb rich in vitality, it was still difficult for it to stand its ground against the potent soul-purging poison. The only reason it was able to survive so long was because Elder Zhao and the others, even though their direction was wrong from the very start, had fed it many nourishing substances, granting it the strength to withstand the onslaught of the poison. Yu Su came here 2 years ago, and shortly afterward, the Bodhi Saint tree fell ill. Could Yu Su have really been the culprit? Zhang Xian frowned. The soul-purging poison was extremely hard to concoct, not to mention, the green-leafed heart nexus plant and the soulless flower had gone extinct centuries ago. On top of that, Yu Su had an opportunity to strike as well. Following this line of deduction, all of the current evidence seemed to point toward Yu Su. But, if Yu Shenqing was willing to allow Yu Su to get close to the Bodhi Saint tree to procure its seedling, that could mean that there was no conflict between them. So, what could Yu Su stand to gain from poisoning the Bodhi Saint tree? Zhang Xian contemplated over the issue a moment longer, but he was still unable to connect the dots. Shaking his head, he decided to turn his attention away from the matter. Forget it, this should be a matter for Yu Shenqing to worry about. The only reason he had treated the Bodhi Saint tree was to borrow it to save Wei Ruyan. As for uncovering the culprit who had poisoned it, that was a job for the others to do. After emptying out the Earth Vein Spirit Essence in the gourd and pumping a few dozen more surges of Jinqi in, the weak Bodhi Saint tree began to regain its vitality, and signs of its former glory started to appear. Exhaling deeply, Zhang Xian said, "All right, I'm done." "Thank you, Zhang Shi." The agitated Yu Shenqing immediately rushed forward and clasped his fist in gratitude. The Bodhi Saint tree was the foundation of their Yu clan. Once it was gone, the Yu clan would start falling into decline, eventually disappearing in the annals of history. Yu Shinqing had thought that it was hopeless, and he had already prepared himself for the worst. He really hadn't expected the young man before him to be able to easily identify the cause and resolve the problem within less than half a day. Zhang Shi. The faces of Elder Zhao and the others reddened in embarrassment, and if they could, they would have loved to vanish on the spot. They had doubted the other party, accusing him of only being there for the fame. Yet, they, the knowledgeable ones, had spent 2 years achieving nothing, but he, the ignorant one, had solved the problem surrounding the Bodhi Saint tree in just a few hours. Just recalling the matter was sufficient to fill them with embarrassment. An elder stepped forward and said, "Zhang Shi, if you are free, do come over and conduct a lecture for us. Our Sun clan is willing to compensate you with 100 spirit pinnacle medicinal herbs in return." It was a problem that they couldn't figure out despite coming together, but the other party was able to find a solution for it with a single glance. His mastery in herbology was far beyond their imagination. If they could invite him to their clan to lecture them, the proficiency of their clan members would surely rise rapidly, and it would just be a matter of time before they surpassed the other herbology clans. Another elder stepped forward and offered, "Zhang Shi, come to our Qin clan. We are willing to offer you 150 spirit pinnacle medicinal herbs and 5 saint herbs." Knowing that Zhang Shi could possibly herald in an era of prosperity for their clan, the other elders in the room could no longer hold themselves back either. "Zhang Shi, come to our Zhao clan instead. Our Lu clan. Thank you for your high evaluation for me, but I don't have the intention of conducting any lectures for the time being." Seeing the previously haughty elders standing before him politely as if young junior school students before a teacher, Zhang Xian was rendered speechless. In truth, the offers the elders had made were extremely tempting, but the problem was that he had no idea how to lecture them on herbology. The reason he was able to cure the Bodhi Saint tree was due to his eye of insight and library of heaven's path. It had very little to do with his knowledge concerning herbology. If he were to really conduct lectures for them, it wouldn't be long before they started pestering him for refunds. Seeing that Zhang Xian was unwilling to conduct any lectures, Elder Zhao and the others could only back down in disappointment. Zhang Xian turned to the crowd and said, "Your Majesty and elders, I need to borrow the Bodhi Saint tree to resolve some private affairs, so..." Understanding the meaning behind Zhang Xian's words, Yu Shinqing turned to the crowd and smiled. "You have all worked hard to treat the Bodhi Saint tree over the last 2 years. I will have the royal chefs prepare a feast this instant, so please follow me to the main hall." "Your Majesty, thank you. We haven't really done anything much." The other elders nodded as they followed Yu Shinqing out. Soon, Zhang Xian was the only one left in the residence. He flew to the air to take a look at the surroundings and saw that Yu Shinqing had deployed the guards in the area away as well, strictly prohibiting anyone from coming close to the residence. Heaving a sigh of relief, Zhang Xian took out the sickly Wei Ruyan from the myriad ant-hive nest. In recent days, he had been bringing her around in case her condition abruptly worsened and emergency treatment was required. With a healthy Bodhi Saint tree before him now, it was time to treat her affliction once and for all. Zhang Xian first drew his soul out of his body before summoning Wei Ruyan's soul out as well, and using a secret art, he infused the latter's soul into the Bodhi Saint tree. He had taken a close look earlier, and the Bodhi Saint tree was indeed extremely effective in nurturing souls. Zhang Xian followed Wei Ruyan's soul into the Bodhi Saint tree to assess her condition, and he could sense the latter's feeble soul being nurtured, growing stronger by the moment. She is recovering faster than I thought." Zhang Xian fell in a moment of thought before the answer struck him. "It is the soul purge poison." To think that the 2 years of pain the Bodhi Saint tree suffered under the tyranny of the soul purge poison would become an opportunity for Wei Ruyan instead. Despite the massive size and greater medicinal potency of the Bodhi Saint tree, it was just a matter of time before Wei Ruyan's poisoned soul constitution poisoned it and rendered its effects negligible, just like with the 10-leafed flower. However, after 2 years of fending against the soul purge poison, this Bodhi Saint tree had already gained a fair degree of immunity to poison. On top of that, the poisoned soul constitution had the ability to consume lethal poison, and the lingering soul purge poison left in the tree was greatly nourishing to her. In other words, not only would Wei Ruyan's soul not poison the Bodhi Saint tree in the short term, it would even help to devour the remaining poison left within it. At the same time, Wei Ruyan's soul would recover faster as well. At this rate, it will only take a day for her to regain consciousness. Zhang Xian's eyes lit up. It seemed like it was the correct decision for him to choose to save the Bodhi Saint tree. Even though he had used up a fair bit of precious earth vein spirit essence in the midst of doing so, it would be well worth the cost if he could successfully cure Wei Changfeng's daughter of her affliction with this. Heaving a sigh of relief, Zhang Xian returned his soul to his body, and he stowed Wei Ruyan's body back into the myriad anthive nest as well. Shortly after he did so, a voice suddenly sounded in his mind. "Master, I need you to come in here urgently." Hearing that voice, Zhang Xian frowned. It was the myriad anthive queen. A while ago, it had devoured Kong Shi's folded space, and it was currently using it to expand its nest. According to its deductions, it would require at least 3 months to finish the job. Given that less than 5 days had passed, it must have met with some kind of issue. Thus, Zhang Xian quickly entered the myriad anthive nest without any hesitation. The myriad anthive nest was considerably larger than before, stretching 20 meters from one end to the other. Even with the Byzantium Helios beast and the golden origin cauldron standing within, there was still plenty of space to move around. While admiring the incredible ability of the myriad anthive queen, Zhang Xian walked up to it and asked, "What's wrong?" "Master, I think I might have underestimated the difficulty of this task. I know that I said that I would be able to succeed in 3 months, but due to my cultivation being too low, I am already starting to lose control over this space," the myriad anthive nest explained awkwardly. It had previously declared confidently that it would be able to assimilate Kong Shi's folded space into the myriad anthive nest within 3 months, but from the looks of it now, it wouldn't happen that easily. With the myriad anthive queen's current cultivation of perfect harmonization realm, it was still within its means to control a space of around 10 meters wide. However, when the nest was increased to 20 meters wide, the space became a little too large for it to control properly. At the current rate, the space might just very well collapse even before the nest could be fully constructed. "Lose control?" Zhang Xian said with a grim expression. Even though the unique constitution of the myriad anthive queen allowed it to utilize spatial manipulation despite only being at the perfect harmonization realm, its abilities were still limited by its cultivation. If it were to forcefully expand its nest, it could very well suffer a backlash, and huge trouble would ensue. "Is there any way to solve the problem?" Zhang Xian asked. "There is, but it will be rather troublesome." The myriad anthive queen shook her head. "Speak." Hearing that there was a solution, Zhang Xian heaved a sigh of relief. "The problem can be solved by raising my cultivation swiftly. As long as I reach Saint Realm, I should be able to retain perfect control of the space and even hasten the assimilation process at that," the myriad anthive nest said. "Raising your cultivation? That's easy, I can easily do that. However, to reach Saint Realm..." Zhang Xian frowned. "Forget it, I will do what I can first." If raising the myriad anthive queen's cultivation was all it took, it wasn't really a huge issue. With Zhang Xian's Heaven's Path Shinqi, he could cleanse the bloodline of a spirit beast and raise its cultivation. Kacha! Kacha! Under the nourishment of Zhang Xian's Shinqi, the myriad anthive nest's body jolted, and its cultivation began rising steadily. 6 hours later, under the nourishment of the Heaven's Path Shinqi and Earth Vein Spirit Essence, the myriad anthive queen's cultivation reached Chrysalis Realm primary stage, just like Zhang Xian's. Due to the limits of Zhang Xian's cultivation, he could only raise its cultivation this far. Even though perfect harmonization realm pinnacle to chrysalis realm primary stage was a rise in cultivation by slightly more than a realm, the myriad anthive queen was still a significant way off from reaching saint realm. After reinforcing its cultivation, the myriad anthive queen contemplated for a moment before speaking. Master, I heard that the Beast Hall has a bottle of the blood essence of a saint realm myriad anthive queen in its inventory. If I can obtain it, I should be able to raise my cultivation to saint realm swiftly. Chapter 876, Master Teacher. Beast Hall. Zhang Xian was taken aback. The Beast Hall keeps an inventory of the blood essence of many saint beasts, and as long as beast tamers have reached a certain rank and are able to afford the price, they are able to trade for these blood essences, the myriad anthive queen said. I see. I will take the 6-star beast tamer examination now and trade for some then. Knowing that the blood essence of a saint realm myriad anthive queen had such an effect, Zhang Xian swiftly left the nest. He took another look at Wei Ruyan to check on her condition once more, and after confirming that she was recovering rapidly and that the Bodhi Saint tree showed no signs of being poisoned, he heaved a sigh of relief and left the royal palace. His next destination was the Master Teacher Academy. To take the Beast Tamer examination and trade for the blood essence, it would be more convenient to do it via school head Mo. Besides, he wasn't too sure where Hongyuan Empire's Beast Hall was located. Entering the Beast Tamer school, he quickly found school head Mo sitting with a deep frown in his office, seemingly troubled by something. Principal Zhang. Upon noticing Zhang Xian's presence, school head Mo quickly got up and clasped his fist politely. There's no need to stand on ceremony. The reason I came over here today is to take the 6-star Beast Tamer examination. Zhang Xian immediately revealed the reason behind his arrival: 6-star Beast Tamer examination. School head Mo was visibly stunned for a moment before he shook his head. Principal Zhang, you are pulling my leg. Since you were able to tame even senior Byzantium Helios, you are qualified to be a 7-star Beast Tamer. I have already helped you apply for it from the headquarters, and I have received a positive reply as well. I am just waiting for the emblem to arrive now. The Byzantium Helios beast was already at Saint Tu Dan's spiritual perception realm, and under the classification of the Beast Tamer Hall, one who could tame a saint beast of such power was qualified as a 7-star Beast Tamer. Thus, there was no need for him to go through the effort of taking the examination. 7-star Beast Tamer? Zhang Xian was surprised. He had been intending to take the 6-star examination, only to learn that school head Mo had already applied for a 7-star emblem on his behalf. This worked fine with him, too. He would be spared from quite a bit of trouble with this. I will be thanking you in advance then. Since the headquarters have already agreed to it, it just so happens that there is something I need to request from them. I would like to trade for some Saint Realm Myriad Anthive Queen's blood essence. Zhang Xian said. Saint Realm Myriad Anthive Queen's blood essence. School head Mo frowned. Zhang Xian nodded. School head Mo replied, after a moment of hesitation, usually, the headquarters will approve the trade for most Saint Beast's blood essence, and the price won't be too high as well. But the Myriad Anthive Queen's blood essence. I fear that it won't be that easy to make the trade. Won't be easy to make the trade? Zhang Xian asked doubtfully. Since they were all from Saint Beasts, the difficulty in procuring their blood essence shouldn't be too different from one another. Why would the Myriad Anthive Queen be an exception? Noticing Zhang Xian's doubts, school head Mo explained, in the very first place, the Myriad Anthive Queen is an extremely rare beast, and on top of that, only a small proportion of them managed to achieve a breakthrough to Saint Realm. More importantly, the Myriad Anthive Queen possesses the ability to create space, making it an extremely valuable beast. Even if the headquarters do have its blood essence, I fear that the price to obtain it will be exorbitant. Exorbitant? Roughly how much will it cost? Even taking into account your identity as a 7-star beast tamer, it will still cost around several thousand high-tier spirit stones, or even more, school head Mo said as he shook his head bitterly. The price to purchase the blood essence of a Saint Realm Myriad Anthive Queen was simply too great for them to bear. Several thousand high-tier spirit stones. Zhang Xian's lips twitched. He had thought that he could finally be considered wealthy after receiving several hundred high-tier spirit stones from Wu Su and Lu Cheng, but to think that it wouldn't even be sufficient to buy a single item. Furthermore, this was due to the fact that he was a 7-star beast tamer. If it was an outsider instead, the price could very well be hiked up by twofold. The occupation guilds like the Beast Tamer Hall would often grant special privileges such as discounts or priority in services to its own members, depending on their rank. It seemed like what he had wasn't much after all. At this point, school head Mo suddenly spoke up. Actually, there is a way to obtain it even if one can't afford the price, but it will be much harder. Oh. Seeing that there was a way to work around it, Zhang Xian quickly turned his gaze to the other party. As long as your contribution to the Beast Tamer Hall is high enough, the headquarters could give it to you for free, school head Mo said. Contribution? Zhang Xian frowned at the unfamiliar term. That's right. Donating the blood essence of rare spirit beasts or saint beasts, or accomplishing the missions set by the Beast Hall, all of these will be noted by the Beast Hall as contributions from the individual members, school head Mo explained. Donating the blood essence of rare spirit beasts or saint beasts. Zhang Xian shook his head. It had been innumerable years since the Beast Hall was established, and it possessed influence all around the Master-Teacher continent. There were only a handful spirit beasts and saint beasts that it couldn't get to, so very few of them could be considered rare. Even if Zhang Xian knew where he could find one, he wouldn't have the time to look for it. The first way is indeed rather difficult, most only accomplish it with a stroke of luck. As for the second, the Beast Hall rarely set missions, and even when they do, it wouldn't reach here. School head Mo said with a bitter smile. Contribution to a guild wasn't that easily earned. Otherwise, its treasury would have been depleted long ago. School head Mo, we aren't able to hold on any longer. We need assistance. In that moment, flurried footsteps sounded, and an elder abruptly barged into the room. Upon seeing Zhang Xian, the elder clasped his fist and greeted, Principal Zhang. It was the head of the blacksmith school, Zhao Bingxiu. School head Zhao, what do you mean by being unable to hold on any longer? Zhang Xian asked in bewilderment. At this point, he couldn't help but recall the deep frown he had seen on school head Mo's face when he first entered. He had thought that it might have been some personal problem, but after hearing Zhao Bingxiu's words, things probably weren't as simple as they seemed. It's actually nothing much. Principal Zhang, we are just a day away from your inauguration ceremony, so you should focus on preparing for it for the time being. You don't have to worry about anything else, Zhao Bingxiu quickly replied with a smile. Indeed. Principal Zhang, leave the other matters to us, school head Mo quickly added in agreement. Noticing that something was amiss, Zhang Xian frowned. Tell me, what is it? The two elders before him were the heads of the Beast Tamer School and Blacksmith School, as well as St. Wan Dan Pinnacle experts. For such powerful figures to have troubled looks on their faces, something major must have happened. While Zhang Xian might not have paid much heed to the matters concerning the Master-Teacher Academy, he was still ultimately the principal, and he had to bear the responsibilities that came with that role. Hearing Zhang Xian ask about the matter, the two school heads glanced at one another hesitantly, unsure of what they should do. But seeing the determination in Zhang Xian's eyes, school head Mo knew that they wouldn't be able to hide it from him any further, so he sighed deeply and said, the beasts of the Cloud Mist Ridge have launched a beast stampede against us. Cloud Mist Ridge? Beast stampede? Zhang Xian was taken aback. The beasts of the Cloud Mist Ridge have always lived isolated from our Hongyuan Empire, never interfering with the business of the other. However, Just a few days ago, they suddenly went on a rampage, hunting down all of the hunters and cultivators roaming the mountains, school head Mo said. Our Master Teacher Academy received a request for assistance, so we sent our men in to warn them against their actions. But instead of backing down, they assaulted our master teachers and even sent their full forces forward, initiating a beast stampede against Hengyuan City. Left with no choice, I sent in all of the students of the Beast Tamer School to fend off their forces at Hengyuan Mountain Range. It has been a day since the battle began, and our line of defense is starting to crumble. Crumble. Zhang Xian's face darkened, and he clenched his fists tightly. Take me there, I want to take a look. The reason the beasts of Cloud Mist Ridge went on a rampage was probably related to him taking away their Earth Vein spirit essence. Even though the beasts of Cloud Mist Ridge had lived separately from Hengyuan Empire, there had always been some tension between them. Nevertheless, an uneasy peace was established between the two due to the deterrence of the Master Teacher Academy. Part of the reason Zhang Xian didn't hesitate to take away the Earth Vein spirit essence despite knowing how much the beasts of Cloud Mist Ridge valued it was because he knew that if the other party continued to accrue more power, this could spell disaster for Hengyuan Empire in the long run. Even so, he hadn't expected the other party to actually charge out and go head-to-head with the Master Teacher Academy. Since this matter had started due to him, he couldn't back out at this point. Principal Zhang, you can't go. You haven't undergone the inauguration ceremony yet, and your cultivation is still too low. If the others learn of your identity, they will target you. Zhao Bingshu shook his head firmly. It was not without reason that they had chosen not to inform the principal of a matter as major as the students being dispatched to battle. At the current moment, Zhang Xian was simply too weak. If the others were to learn that he was the principal, the beasts of Cloud Mist Ridge would surely focus their forces on him. Should the principal be captured by the enemy at such a crucial period, it would be a devastating blow to the morale of their forces, bringing forth panic and chaos. Furthermore, they earnestly believed that with Zhang Xian's capability, the Hengyuan Master Teacher Academy could be brought to greater heights. At least, until the latter's capabilities matured, they, as elders, must not let any harm come to him. Thus, they had chosen to take matters into their own hands instead. Take me there, or else I will just have to head there myself. Zhang Xian's eyebrows shot up. The lives of innumerable students were at stake, he couldn't possibly sit idly at such a crucial moment. Seeing the determination in Zhang Xian's eyes, the two school heads glanced at one another and sighed. All right, we will take you over there. However, I hope that you won't be hasty, and by no means should you reveal your identity to anyone. This isn't the first beast stampede from Cloud Mist Ridge, so we will surely find a way to suppress it in the end. Zhang Xian nodded. School head Mo summoned his Inferno Dragon Saint Beast over, and the three of them swiftly got on and flew for Hengyuan Mountain Range. Standing on the back of the Inferno Dragon Saint Beast, Zhang Xian asked Zhao Bingshu, "What is the current situation?" "It isn't looking too optimistic. The beast stampede is much more severe than the previous cases. In the first place, most spirit beasts possess the strength to rival cultivators stronger than themselves. To make things worse, the spirit beasts are coordinating with one another like disciplined soldiers, and this places our students in a very dangerous position." Zhao Bingshu said hesitantly. Coordinating with one another like disciplined soldiers? Zhao Bingshu nodded. If I am not mistaken, the Saint Beasts of Cloud Mist Ridge have probably gotten involved as well. Only under their leadership can the spirit beasts display such battle prowess collectively. How are the casualties? Zhang Xian asked. It is rather severe. As the fourth largest school in the Master Teacher Academy, there are over 20,000 students who chose Beast Tamer as their main supporting occupation. Other than those who are currently out on missions, all of them have participated in the battle. More than half of them are wounded, but the death toll is still relatively low at around a dozen, Zhao Bingshu replied grimly. There are already around a dozen dead? Zhang Xian's body stiffened. That's right. The one who replied this time around wasn't Zhao Bingshu but school head Mo. While they were speaking, the Inferno Dragon Saint Beast had already arrived at the airspace above Hongyuan mountain range. Looking down, Zhang Xian could see countless spirit beasts charging down from the mountaintop, and innumerable students rushed forth to meet them. The battle was extremely intense. There were many severely wounded students among the group, but they stood firmly on their ground, not backing out at all. Instead, they seemed to grow more and more courageous by the moment, braving through the hordes of spirit beasts fearlessly. Zhang Xian's body couldn't help but tremble. He saw two familiar faces. They were Feng Wu and Yu Cheng, whom he had a conflict with during the entrance examination on Leiyuan Peak. At this moment, their bodies were completely drenched in blood, and Yu Cheng even had an arm of his snapped off. Yet, they still continued to charge toward the enemies fearlessly with reddened eyes. This posed a stark contrast to the selfish behavior they had displayed while competing with him back then. Whether they were once friend or foe, at this very moment, everyone was fighting side by side, trusting their allies with their back. Taking a glance at Zhang Xian's astonished face, school head Mo said proudly, "Many of them have grudges with one another, and from time to time, they fought and sometimes even resorted to despicable means against one another, but, in the face of trouble, they will still unite together as one and fight alongside one another fearlessly, even if death is what they will ultimately face. This is because this is their mission and responsibility. This is because they bear a common identity." Master Teacher. Chapter 877, Heart of a Teacher, Master Teacher. Zhang Xian's body stiffened. It had been half a year since his transcension, and he had encountered many different master teachers in his time. Be it a normal 1-star master teacher or a powerful 6-star pinnacle master teacher, be it joy, anger, sorrow, or pleasure, all of them possessed emotions like an ordinary human being, and they had their own desires and goals that they pursued as well. Despite being a master teacher himself, he had never felt how heavy the occupation was. However, upon seeing this sight, he finally understood what being a master teacher meant to these men. For mankind, they were willing to put aside their differences and lay down their lives when the time came. All because they were master teachers. They were only two mere words, but they carried heavy significance behind them, the hope of mankind. That's right. Zhao Bingshu nodded. Being a master teacher is more than about glory, it is a responsibility. Take Lu Feng for example, he has already applied to head for the subterranean gallery. Even if he might meet his end there, he is still determined to protect his dignity as a master teacher. Subterranean gallery. Zhang Xian's body trembled. He had read about it in the books, so he knew very well what kind of place it was. The subterranean gallery was the passageway connecting the master-teacher continent to the world of the otherworldly demonic tribe, as well as a dangerous battlefield where one could easily lose one's life in a moment of carelessness. Lu Feng had volunteered to head to the subterranean gallery. Even if Lu Feng was stripped of his master-teacher license, he could still live lavishly with his prowess as a half-spiritual perception realm expert. Yet, he had chosen to veer down this difficult path to guard his honor instead. The reason school head Lu spoke on Yusu's behalf was due to their close ties. Such emotions are ingrained in all humans, and it has never been the master-teacher pavilion's aim to destroy human nature. In fact, Kong Shi even encouraged the development of each person's unique character instead, saying that it was the true way to further the prosperity of mankind. If other master teachers lose their individuality and act as if they were cast from the same mold, that would turn into a disaster for mankind instead. School head Mo said. This. Words couldn't express Zhang Xian's current emotions. There are no humans who aren't born with emotions, and they served as the key to drive us further, allowing us to exceed our limits. If one were to destroy the human character in pursuit of perfection, even without the intervention of the otherworldly demonic tribe, we would have already limited and destroyed ourselves. Perhaps, this was the reason the Master Teacher Academy condoned conflicts among the students, allowing them to sort things out among themselves. Master teachers can be selfish. They may choose to side with their kin and friends against justice, and they may come to blows over a treasure as well, but, in dire times like this, they have to put aside their differences and charge forward bravely. This is the responsibility of all master teachers, as well as the vision Kong Shi had in mind when he established the Master Teacher Pavilion. School head Mo continued. So, this is a master teacher. Zhang Xian muttered as he closed his eyes. He had met many master teachers on his journey. There were those who were kind and upright, but there were also those who were greedy and selfish. He had thought that master teachers were no different from anyone else, but his thoughts had been wrong all along. Master teachers could be selfish, greedy, and even narrow-minded. But when the survival of mankind was at stake, they would be the first to step forward and shoulder the burden. This is what a master teacher has to do and must do. In that instant, Zhang Xian felt as if his soul had been cleansed and initiated. He was a transcender, and in the world he had come from, many of the fine cultural traditions had already eroded. Students no longer respected their teacher, and teachers no longer felt pride in their occupation. Some of them even committed unforgivable acts that a teacher should never commit. After coming to this world, Zhang Xian had gotten a glimpse of the nobility of the occupation. But nevertheless, his subconscious mind still retained the view he had from his previous life. It was only in this instant that he realized the responsibilities he shouldered from the moment he had chosen to bear this identity. Kacha! A crisp crack sounded from Zhang Xian's chest, and as if a caterpillar breaking out of its cocoon, a unique and solemn power fell from the sky and onto him. At that moment, it felt as if he was a divine being descending from the heavens. Could this be? Noticing the changes surrounding Zhang Xian, Zhao Bingxiu and school head Mo traded glances, and their eyes abruptly narrowed. With a quivering voice, they uttered simultaneously, "Heart of a teacher." Heart of a teacher, just like the eye of insight, was a unique ability that only master teachers could comprehend. Only those who persisted in their path as a true teacher would be able to comprehend this ability and reach greater heights. Legend had it that only 8-star master teachers could comprehend this ability, but to think that Zhang Shi would comprehend it despite only being a 4-star master teacher. A person with the heart of a teacher was no longer confined by the boundaries of race. His impartation of heaven's will would be effective on even savage beasts and spirit beasts, allowing him to turn them into his students, achieving, in the truest sense, enlightenment devoid of discrimination. Back then, Kong Shi had comprehended the heart of a teacher as well, as his students didn't just consist of humans but beasts and even otherworldly demons as well. In a sense, a person who had comprehended the heart of a teacher could be considered to be nearly on par with a celestial master teacher. Principal Zhang actually managed to comprehend the heart of a teacher. It seems like the rise of our Hongyuan Master Teacher Academy is just on the horizon, school head Mo said as his body trembled in agitation. Even in the entire history of the Master Teacher Pavilion, only a handful had managed to comprehend the heart of a teacher. Yet, their principal had actually succeeded in comprehend it. Just based on this in itself, he would surely accomplish great things in the future. Hongyuan Master Teacher Academy would also make its mark on the world, becoming a sacred land where all master teachers desired to head to. School head Mo swiftly set up a barrier around him with a wave of his hand to conceal what was happening within before turning to Zhao Bingxiu. School head Zhao, the matter concerning Principal Zhang comprehending the heart of a teacher has great implications. If he were to be targeted by the otherworldly demonic tribe due to this matter, we would become sinners of mankind. It would only be a matter of time for a master teacher who had comprehended the heart of a teacher to advance through the ranks, becoming one of the powerhouses of the Master Teacher Pavilion. Thus, if the otherworldly demonic tribe were to learn of such an existence, they would surely hunt that person down with their full force. For Principal Zhang's safety, they must keep this matter a secret. Don't worry. I swear on my identity as a master teacher that I will not tell a single soul about this matter, Zhao Bingxiu vowed. I also swear to do the same on my identity as a master teacher. School head Mo nodded. While they were talking, the unique power finally vanished, and Zhang Xian slowly opened his eyes. Unlike before, there is a resolute glint in his gaze. As one who had comprehended heart of a teacher, the confusion that had plagued him before had disappeared, and he understood what he should and shouldn't do. Taking a deep breath, Zhang Xian said calmly, "School head Mo, propose a ceasefire with the beasts of Cloud Mist Ridge. Tell them that the succeeding principal of the Master Teacher Academy wishes to negotiate with them." Negotiate? The two school heads were taken aback for an instant before school head Mo hurriedly exclaimed in astonishment, "You can't do that. The reason we refused to tell you about this matter before is because we feared that you would do this. None of us can bear the consequences if something happens to you." Indeed. It isn't easy for a principal who has the approval of Mu Shi and the entirety of the 10 great master teachers to appear. You are the one who will unite the Master Teacher Academy and bring it to greater heights. We can't afford to lose you. Zhao Bingshu added. Zhang Xian shook his head. Won't my identity be revealed tomorrow in the inauguration ceremony anyway? Since his identity was going to be revealed the following day, what harm would it do if others were to learn of his identity a day before? That isn't the same. After the inauguration ceremony, you will be qualified to wield the principal's seal, and it will help to ensure your safety. No matter what you say, I won't allow you to reveal your identity now. School head Mo exclaimed. Principal's seal. Zhang Xian frowned. That's right. Infused in the principal's seal is the will of the students and teachers of the Master Teacher Academy. Even if the otherworldly demonic tribe attempts to harm you, they will be kept at bay by the power of the principal's seal. Only with that can your safety be guaranteed. School head Mo explained. If that's the case, did the missing old principal possess the principal's seal? Of course. Then how did he go missing? Zhang Xian asked. This. School head Mo was unable to answer that question. Gesturing at the many master teachers charging forth bravely below, Zhang Xian said, danger is always existent. Since even the students below aren't afraid, what do I have to fear? He was a master teacher just like the rest of them. Since they could face death without fear, what did he have to hesitate over? After a moment of hesitation, school head Mo eventually relented. Fine, I will do as you have said. However, I will be proposing a negotiation in the name of school head Xiao and myself instead. I hope that you can understand our concerns. Even if Zhangshi didn't fear death, they couldn't allow the Master Teacher Academy to lose its principal once more. Knowing that this was the bottom line of the other party, Zhang Xian agreed to it. Retracting the barrier from the surroundings, school head Mo leaped off the back of the Inferno Dragon Saint Beast and stopped in midair. Taking a deep breath, he roared, the kings of Cloud Mist Ridge. I, Mo Zhu, propose a negotiation with you as the representative of the Master Teacher Academy. Hong Long. As if a massive wave, his voice swept across the entire mountain range, reaching the ears of each and every being in the area. Negotiate? Why should we negotiate? These beasts have trampled on the dignity of mankind, we can't let them go so easily. Indeed. How can we face the many master teachers who have been wounded or even killed in this conflict if we negotiate with them? Upon hearing that school head Mo was proposing a negotiation, a huge uproar immediately broke out amid the master teachers below. Proposing a negotiation was a sign of weakness. If the Master Teacher Academy, facing the onslaught of the beasts, were to choose to negotiate instead of returning the favor back to them, what would become of their dignity? A powerful voice boomed from the back of the spirit beast stampede. You want to negotiate? Fine by us. Come to the Cloud Mist Ridge, we will give you a chance to negotiate all you want. It was likely that the one speaking was one of the most powerful existences among the saint beasts of the Cloud Mist Ridge, their king. They want to hold the negotiations on the Cloud Mist Ridge. School head Mo, you mustn't agree to their demands. That has got to be a trap. If even our school head is captured by them, we will never be able to raise our heads before others anymore. The master teachers panicked. It was clear that the other party was up to no good. The cloud mist ridge was their den, and if school head Imo were to head over, he would be encircled by countless half-saint, nascent saint, and saint realm beasts. Should negotiations break down, he wouldn't even have the chance to escape. Moreover, as the side proposing the negotiation, they were already in a disadvantageous position. If they were to negotiate on the other party's territory on top of that, wouldn't they simply be exploited? The Master Teacher Academy served as a pillar of support for mankind, so how could it bow its head to others like that? If word were to spread, wouldn't it create a huge uproar among the population? Principal Zhang. While a huge commotion was going on beneath them, school head Imo turned his gaze to Zhang Xian hesitantly. He also felt that it was too dangerous to negotiate in their territory as well. Accept it. Zhang Xian said calmly. Zhao Bingxiu hurriedly clasped his fist. Principal Zhang, it's too dangerous. We can think of some other solutions. There is no need for that. If we don't enter their den, how can we meet their kings? Zhang Xian waved his hands resolutely, signifying that this matter wasn't open for discussion. This. School head Imo and school head Zhao traded gazes and sighed. That was indeed the case. The saint beasts treasured their lives dearly, or else, they wouldn't have had the spirit beasts charge at the front lines in their stead either. If they were to turn down the negotiation, they wouldn't have any other opportunity to meet the other party's kings. Fine, we agree, school head Mo bellowed back. Knowing that Zhang Xian's mind was made up, the both of them could only resign themselves to it. They solemnly vowed that they would protect and send Zhang Xian out of the cloud mist ridge safely, even at the cost of their lives. What? School head Mo, you can't. School head Mo, this won't do. They are lying. Hearing those words, the master teachers below yelled in panic. Enough. This is the decision made by the Master Teacher Academy. All master teachers, retreat and assemble at Leiyuan Peak. School head Mo roared. Chapter 878, Returning to Cloud Mist Ridge, yes. Even though the master teachers felt indignant and frustrated, they knew that they had to obey the orders made by the Master Teacher Academy or else there would be chaos. Thus, they withdrew from the battlefield and headed to Leiyuan Peak. Watching as the students retreated, Zhang Xian instructed, School head Zhao, you should remain behind to command the students. They need a leader to unite them at a moment like this. Try to avoid all confrontations with the spirit beasts for the time being if possible. It will suffice for just school head Mo and me to head to the negotiations. Hearing that Zhang Xian was sending him away, Zhao Bingxiu hurriedly shook his head. That won't do, I will follow you to the Cloud Mist Ridge as well. Even though their principal had made huge progress in his cultivation recently, he was still only at Chrysalis Realm primary stage. With the other party's current cultivation, heading into the Cloud Mist Ridge, which was filled with saint beasts, was no different from courting death. Even at the expense of his life, Zhao Bingxiu was determined to follow the other party to ensure his safety. Are you going to disobey my orders right after nominating me as your principal? Zhang Xian frowned. If you are unwilling to listen to my commands, the two of you might as well remain here. I will head in myself. Principal Zhang. Zhao Bingxiu frowned in worry. School head Zhao, those students do need you with them, so you should go. Don't worry, I will make sure that no one harms Principal Zhang, school head Mo said. In the next moment, he sent a telepathic message to Zhao Bingxiu. After you return, reorganize our forces and find Mu Shi and the others. 4 hours, if we don't return in 4 hours, launch an attack against the Cloud Mist Ridge. I will remain by Principal Zhang's side to ensure his safety for the next 4 hours. This. Zhao Bingxiu was taken aback for an instant before he nodded grimly. All right then, I will be heading off now. Zhang Xian could tell that the duo had communicated telepathically as well, but he didn't pay it any heed. Standing on top of the infernal dragon Saint Beast, he and school head Zhao began heading for the Cloud Mist Ridge. Zhao Bingshu watched their departing backs with clenched fists for a moment before rushing back to the Master-Teacher Academy. Principal Zhang, no harm can come to you. He knew that their principal was proposing this negotiation for the sake of the students of the Master-Teacher Academy. It might seem as if he was undermining the authority and dignity of the academy, but this battle had come too suddenly, and they were largely unprepared. This was the best solution to preserve their fighting power at the moment. To bear the blame of failure so as to protect his fellow master teachers from harm, such decisiveness and courage. They had indeed chosen the right candidate for the job. Zhang Shi was indeed a person whom they could count on, a true master teacher who, just like Kong Shi, possessed a heart that was large enough to embrace the world. Perhaps, they might just become witnesses to the birth of a new legend. The Inferno Dragon Saint Beast flew swiftly, and in just a few moments, they had already arrived at the Cloud Mist Ridge. Standing tall on top of the Saint Beast, School Head Mo bellowed, "I, Mo Zhu of the Master Teacher Academy, have come as agreed. I ask the kings of the Cloud Mist Ridge to meet me." A composed voice responded. "Ride on the Eagle Beast, he will bring you to us. As for your Saint Beast, leave him outside. I fear that we might end up putting him in a difficult position if negotiations fail." School Head Mo's Inferno Dragon Saint Beast was a beast as well. If negotiations were to break down, it would be cast in a difficult position. The Saint Beasts gathered in the area are like a thorn stuck in our throat, posing a potential threat to us. We have been wanting to eliminate them for some time already, but it's a pity that we have been unable to breach their defenses. At this point, School Head Mo suddenly recalled something, and his complexion turned grim. Furthermore, there seems to be a deeper reason behind why the Saint Beasts choose to dominate the Cloud Mist Ridge. The old principal seemed to have uncovered something about them, but he disappeared before he could tell anyone else about it. Also, according to the investigations over the years, it seems like Elder Wu Yangzi's disappearance also had something to do with the Cloud Mist Ridge. Hearing those words, Zhang Xian narrowed his eyes. He had a rough understanding of the mystery concerning Wu Yangzi's disappearance, and he had obtained the latter's treasure as well. If the Cloud Mist Ridge was involved in Wu Yangzi's disappearance too, it could mean that the otherworldly demonic tribe was behind them. Could Vicious be involved in this matter as well? After obtaining Wu Yangzi's treasure, Zhang Xian had asked Vicious about this matter, but the latter had lost most of his memories, so he wasn't able to say much. However, it was certain that Wu Yangzi's disappearance was plotted by the otherworldly demons. Were these Saint Beasts involved in the operation as well? That might really be the case. For an expert who was nearing St. Tu Dan to be kidnapped discreetly in Hengyuan City, where the Master Teacher Academy was located, it was impossible for the otherworldly demons to conduct such an operation by themselves. In order to uncover the truth, we have dispatched even Saint Realm experts into the Cloud Mist Ridge, but none of them succeeded. 700 years ago, I tried to scout this land myself as well, and if not for the old principal, I might have just lost my life here, School Head Mo said with reddened eyes. When he was still young and hot-blooded, he had secretly crept into the Cloud Mist Ridge in hopes of uncovering the secrets surrounding it. However, before he could get far, he had already found himself assaulted by hordes of beasts. If not for the old principal lending a helping hand, he would have lost his life then. I see. Zhang Xian hadn't expected for School Head Mo to have had such an experience. He had ventured into the Cloud Mist Ridge once as well, and there was indeed something rather bizarre about it. Were it not for his means as a soul oracle and his otherworldly demon puppets, he would have definitely been unable to sneak into the depths of the Cloud Mist Ridge and steal the Earth Vein spirit essence. Thus, you really mustn't reveal your identity later on. Otherwise, the Saint Beasts might just attempt to capture you and hold you hostage, School Head Mo said. All right then. Zhang Xian nodded. Considering the many uncertainties and implications surrounding the matter, it would be very dangerous for him to reveal his true identity. Even with the Byzantium Helios beast, the Golden Origin Cauldron, and his many otherworldly demon puppets, it would still be difficult for him to escape from the hordes of half-saint, Nascent Saint, and Saint Realm beasts of the Cloud Mist Ridge. While the duo was speaking, the eagle beast flew across the mist and arrived on the mountain peak. Taking a closer look, Zhang Xian realized that the surroundings looked familiar to him. It was the place where he had procured the Earth Vein Spirit Essence. Chio! The eagle beast called out sharply before descending to the ground. After which, school head Mo and Zhang Xian leaped off the back of the eagle beast. I, Mo Zhu of the Master Teacher Academy, have arrived with my student. I beseech the kings of the Cloud Mist Ridge to meet us. Stepping forward, school head Mo exuded the impressive aura of a Saint Realm 1 Dan pinnacle to put up a display of power. School head Mo, come in. An impassive voice sounded from the cavern ahead of them. Following which, 2 half-saint Black Spirit Panther walked out and made a welcoming gesture. They seemed to be the guards of this cavern. Let's go. Taking a deep breath, school head Mo took the lead and walked in, and Zhang Xian followed behind him. Scanning his surroundings, Zhang Xian noticed that there were many half-saint and nascent saint beasts guarding the area, similar to how it had been the last time he was there, except for the significant decrease in their numbers. It seemed like a handful of them had been dispatched for the battle with the Master Teacher Academy. Advancing deeper into the cavern, they soon arrived at the area where the Earth Vein Spirit Essence had been stored, and there, they met 10-seated Saint 1 Dan Pinnacle Saint Beasts. As soon as school head Mo and Zhang Xian approached, they immediately turned their eyes to them, and there was chilling killing intent in their gazes. One of the 10 Saint 1 Dan Pinnacle Saint Beasts, a golden bear tiger beast, uttered coldly, Mo Zhu, you sure are arrogant to bring a Chrysalis Realm student here. As the head of the Beast Tamer School, school head Mo had a rough idea regarding the various saint beasts that lived on the Cloud Mist Ridge. Paying no heed to the golden bear tiger beast, school head Mo said with a wave of his hand, since I am here, we can begin talking about how we can resolve the battle between the Master Teacher Academy and Cloud Mist Ridge amicably. I believe that we can both agree that if we continue fighting like that, both sides will just suffer severe losses. There will be no winner in this battle. Suffer severe losses? So what if we suffer severe losses? You humans stole our Earth Vein Spirit Essence, destroying our very foundation. Let me tell you this straight. If we beasts are going to suffer, I will make sure that you humans feel double the pain, the Saint 1 Dan Pinnacle Scarlet Blaze Lion roared. We stole your Earth Vein Spirit Essence. School head Mo frowned. Indeed. This is the ground where we store our Earth Vein Spirit Essence, but it has been completely emptied out now. Only you despicable humans are capable of such underhanded actions, the Scarlet Blaze Lion bellowed furiously. School head Mo took a look at his surroundings, and there was indeed a depression in the cave reminiscent of an empty lake. Even though there was nothing in it, he could still feel the lingering spiritual energy, indicating that something extremely rich in spiritual energy had once been stored in the depression. But this was the very core of the Cloud Mist Ridge. Countless nascent saint and saint realm beasts guarded the area. To be able to steal the spirit essence under such circumstances, which expert could it be? One must know that school head Mo had already reached a considerable height in his cultivation when he had attempted to scale the mountain back then, but he had nearly been killed before he could even reach the halfway mark of the mountain. To be able to successfully sneak in, steal the treasure of the saint beasts, and escape alive. That fellow sure had helped mankind vent the countless years of pent-up frustration at those arrogant saint beasts. I am unaware of such a matter. But even though school head Mo was full of awe for that anonymous expert, he didn't allow it to show on his face. Instead, he frowned deeply and asked, you claim that it is the doing of a human, but do you have any evidence? Have you uncovered the culprit yet? Ha, unaware of the matter. Do you think that you can cover this matter just by saying that you are unaware of it? The golden bear tiger beast harumphed. I am not trying to cover up the matter. It's just that if you don't have any evidence or suspects in mind, there is no way I can help you redress your grievances. I don't think that we will be able to get anywhere by arguing about that, so let's talk about the battle instead, school head Mo said. If it's just a small skirmish between us, the Master-Teacher Pavilion wouldn't bother getting involved. However, if this matter were to blow up and bring great misery and suffering to the populace, there is no guarantee that the Master-Teacher Pavilion won't decide that there is no need for your Cloud Mist Ridge to continue existing in the world and wipe it away with a swipe of their hands. Even if I don't point it out, I believe that you should be extremely clear of this as well. Since you have already lain low for so many years, why start something now and let your efforts go in vain? Hearing School Head Mo's words, the golden bear tiger beast sneered coldly and said, "In the past, we still had the earth vein spirit essence. It represented hope for us to advance our stagnated cultivation, so we were still willing to lie low back then. But now, we won't take reconciliation completely off the table just yet. As long as the Master Teacher Academy is willing to compensate us 50,000 high-tier spirit stones and help us set up 500 grade 6 spirit gathering formations all over Cloud Mist Ridge, I will order my spirit beasts to retreat immediately." "50,000 high-tier spirit stones? 500 grade 6 spirit gathering formations? Impossible, you must be dreaming. Come up with something else." School Head Mo's face darkened. "You are clearly trying to take advantage of us. 50,000 high-tier spirit stones? Even if you overturn the entire Master Teacher Academy, you won't be able to find that much money. Besides, it is not like our Master Teacher Academy is afraid of you. It is only in consideration of the death and suffering that a full-blown war will bring that we are negotiating with you. If it really comes down to it, we can definitely overthrow your Cloud Mist Ridge if we mobilize all of our strength. Come up with something else. I'm afraid that those are the only things I want. Accept it or not, the decision is in your hands. But of course, if you turn down the offer, the war will immediately resume. I haven't mobilized our aerial spirit beasts yet. Once we do you think that your students who are still incapable of flight will be able to stop them? Once they reach Hongyuan City, the death toll won't be just a dozen people or so. I sure would like to see how you will account to your headquarters and the populace once that happens," the golden bear tiger beast sneered coldly. Master teachers were tasked with the responsibility of ensuring the peace and security of the region. If aerial spirit beasts were to really overrun Hongyuan City and massacre the populace, the credibility of the Master Teacher Academy would surely be destroyed. At the same time, the trust in the Master Teacher Pavilion's capability would also waver. "Are you threatening me?" School Head Mo asked with a cold glint in his eyes. For the Master Teacher Academy to be threatened by a bunch of saint beasts, what a joke. The dignity of Master Teachers could not be sullied. Those weren't just empty words. If anyone were to dare do so, the Master Teacher Pavilion wouldn't hesitate to wipe them off the face of the world. Back then, the Soul Oracles had been a very powerful faction themselves, but they had still disappeared in the annals of history. The Poison Masters were also known for their fearsome capability to defeat opponents stronger than them, but they still dared not build their poison hall openly. No matter what, School Head Mo couldn't let this threat pass. But just as he was about to lash out at them, he suddenly heard Principal Zhang's voice in his mind. "Find a way to uncover the location of their aerial spirit beasts and send me over to take a look." School Head Mo was stunned. Why would Principal Zhang ask this? Furthermore, why would he want to take a look at the aerial spirit beasts? But since the other party had requested it, he must have had his reasons for doing so. Thus, with a deep frown on his face, School Head Mo turned to the golden bear tiger beast and sneered, "So what if there are aerial spirit beasts in the Cloud Mist Ridge? We have hundreds of cultivators capable of flight in our Master Teacher Academy. What makes you think that we won't be able to stop your forces? Even if you wish to threaten us, at least find something that can scare us." "Ha, hundreds of cultivators capable of flight? Let me tell you this, our Cloud Mist Ridge has 3,000 aerial spirit beasts, and each of them is capable of flying at incredible speeds. There might be many Saint Realm experts in the Master Teacher Academy, but there is no way they will be able to stop every single one of them. As long as several hundred of them bypass your defenses, they will be able to bring forth devastating destruction. Besides, we can choose to launch an attack on the nearby small towns instead. I don't believe that you have enough Saint Realm experts to clear off each and every one of them quickly, the golden bear tiger beast sneered coldly, his tone dripping with threat. 3,000? School head Mo burst into laughter. Do you take me for a fool? Are you including those transcendent mortal 1 Dan and 2 Dan aerial spirit beasts in your calculation as well? Aerial spirit beasts were capable of causing massive destruction as ordinary cultivators were incapable of flying to hunt them down. However, the strength of the aerial spirit beasts mattered as well. If they were only at transcendent mortal 1 Dan or 2 Dan, what harm could they cause in Hongyuan Empire, which was filled with transcendent mortal cultivators? The Master Teacher Academy could easily destroy them all just by dispatching a few students here and there. Transcendent mortal 1 Dan 2 Dan. School head Mo, it seems like you are lacking intelligence on the prowess of our Cloud Mist Ridge. Even the weakest of our 3,000-strong aerial spirit beast troop is at transcendent mortal 7 Dan. Do you still think that your Master Teacher Academy has the ability to stop them in their tracks? The golden bear tiger beast scoffed. Transcendent mortal 7 Dan. You sure know how to brag. School head Mo shook his head with a look of disbelief. You don't believe me? The golden bear tiger beast frowned. How can you expect me to believe such blatant lies? Since you are clearly insincere in the negotiations, I think there is no need for us to talk any further. At this point, school head Mo hesitated for an instant before adding, if you want me to believe your words, there is one way. You can send a saint beast to escort this student of mine to take a look. If you really do have that many powerful aerial spirit beasts, I will immediately send a message to the other school heads and even Emperor Yu Shenqing to ask for permission to negotiate in their stead. The golden bear tiger beast raised his massive paw and harumphed. You obstinate old fogey. Fine. Black Spirit Panthers, take the student of school head Mo to take a look at our army of aerial spirit beasts. Even though he had spoken with great bravado, the truth was that he was also fearful about the might of the Master Teacher Academy as well. As an organization that had groomed many generations of master teachers, it was surely filled with many experts. If it was just the students, he was confident that they would be able to wipe them out easily. However, if the opponent included the teachers and elders as well, even with the geographical advantage they possessed, it would still be a matter of time before they were overrun. Furthermore, the Master Teacher Academy still had the headquarters behind it. Even if they were to win the battle against the Master Teacher Academy by some incredible stroke of luck, what they would face next would be an impossible enemy. In light of this, they couldn't give up on the negotiations easily either. Roar! The 2 half-Saint Realm Black Spirit Panthers answered with a call before heading toward them. School head Mo, try to stall them for as long as you can, and don't engage them in a battle if possible. Take care of yourself. Sending a telepathic message to school head Mo, Zhang Xian turned around and followed the Black Spirit Panthers out of the cavern. Noted. Even though school head Mo was unsure what Zhang Xian was up to, he still had some trust in Zhang Xian's capability. He turned to the golden bear tiger beast and said, if the situation is as you have said, I will report the matter as it is to the Master Teacher Academy before making a decision. I can't give you an affirmative answer right now, but if you really do have such a powerful army of aerial spirit beasts, it is not entirely impossible for us to give in to your terms. Oh. I will be looking forward to your reply then, the golden bear tiger beast replied with a smirk. At the same time, a hint of relief flashed through the eyes of the other saint beasts in the area as well. If they could avoid battle, that would be for the best. As powerful as they were, they knew that it was utter foolishness to go head-to-head with the Master Teacher Pavilion. For that moment, the cavern fell silent. Seeing that he had managed to stall for some time, school head Mo secretly heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, he couldn't help but wonder what Zhang Xian hoped to achieve by paying the army of aerial spirit beasts a visit. It would be difficult to deal with such a force even if all of the teachers of the Master Teacher Academy were to be mobilized. What could Zhang Xian do alone? Following behind the two black spirit panthers, Zhang Xian walked out of the cavern and saw dozens of half-saint and nascent saint beasts patrolling the area, glaring at him viciously whenever they passed him by. Esteemed beasts, my cultivation is still very low. I am afraid that these saint beasts will do me harm if they remain in this area. Can you ask them to back down for the moment? Zhang Xian said as he cowered back fearfully. Roar! Seeing a Chrysalis Realm Master Teacher acting so timidly, the lips of the two black spirit panthers curled up into a disdainful smile. It was my teacher who insisted on bringing me over and sending me to check on the aerial spirit beasts. If I had a choice, I would have definitely stayed away as far as I could. I beseech you, just do me this one favor. As long as they can stay away, I am willing to give these two spirit stones to you. At this point, Zhang Xian flicked his wrist and threw out two high-tier spirit stones as he scanned his surroundings unwarily. Grabbing a high-tier spirit stone each, the eyes of the two black spirit panthers immediately lit up. As half-saint beasts, the resources they could access were extremely limited. As such, a high-tier spirit stone was a highly valuable item to them. Roar! Gripping the high-tier spirit stones, the two massive black spirit panthers abruptly roared loudly, seemingly issuing an order. In an instant, the half-saint and nascent saint beasts in the area hurriedly backed off, and it didn't take long for them to disappear from sight. While the black spirit panthers weren't the strongest of them all, they were the personal attendants of the various kings of the Cloud Mist Ridge, so none of them dared to disobey their commands. Roar! After the beasts in the surroundings left, the two black spirit panthers glanced at Zhang Xian with a look of superiority in their eyes. What they wanted to express was simple: how did someone so timid become a master teacher? Hee hee. Facing their ridicule, Zhang Xian chuckled lightly as he flicked his wrist. Who? An identical figure abruptly appeared beside Zhang Xian's side, and with a step each, they disappeared from the spot and appeared right before the two black spirit panthers in the blink of an eye and simultaneously threw a punch forward. Pang! Pang! Everything had happened so fast that the two black spirit panthers had no opportunity to respond before they were sent flying. Crashing into the ground, their bodies convulsed, rendering them unable to move. You have two choices before you. Submit, or die. The two Zhang Xians walked up to the two black spirit panthers and stepped on their heads as they glanced down at them coldly. Roar! They hadn't expected that they, as half-saint experts, would be defeated by a Chrysalis Realm cultivator all of a sudden, and they were completely stunned. It didn't take too long for them to make a decision. A few breaths later, a droplet of fresh blood flew out from glabellas of each of the black spirit panthers and flew toward Zhang Xian. Black spirit panthers, tamed. Good. Call those half-saint and nascent saint beasts over here one by one. Tell them that the golden bear tiger beast is summoning them over. Zhang Xian instructed the tamed black spirit panthers. Roar! Not daring to disobey Zhang Xian, the two black spirit panthers hurriedly nodded before rushing away. After they left, Zhang Xian summoned the Byzantium Helios beast and the Golden Origin Cauldron. Byzantium lad and Ding Ding, I will need you to help me beat those saint beasts into submission later on. Yes, master, the Byzantium Helios beast nodded. Hee hee, this is exactly the kind of thing I like. Master, can I reduce those who refuse to submit to cinders? The Golden Origin Cauldron said with an excited undertone in its voice. As the guardian saint artifact of the Master Teacher Academy, it was usually stowed away in the depths of the academy until a major crisis occurred. As such, it rarely had an opportunity to fight. You may. Zhang Xian nodded, acceding to the Golden Origin Cauldron's request. The reason he had chosen to infiltrate the Cloud Mist Ridge was to have everyone here submit to him. As for those who refused, the only fate awaiting them was death. Roar! Soon, a nascent saint beast was escorted there by the black spirit panther. 2 minutes later, it was kneeling before Zhang Xian, submitted. A few minutes later, 3 more half-saint beasts submitted. 10 minutes later, all of the half-saint and nascent saint beasts patrolling the area were under Zhang Xian's control. Heaving a sigh of relief, Zhang Xian issued several instructions. All right. Just like before, scatter yourselves in the surroundings, don't let anyone else notice any anomaly. Black spirit panthers, bring me to the aerial spirit beasts. These half-saint and nascent saint beasts were easier to tame than he had thought. There were only 2 who had refused to listen to his words, and they had been reduced to cinders on the spot by the golden origin cauldron. Such an action had a deterrent effect on the other beasts. Knowing that the young man before them wouldn't hesitate to kill them should they choose otherwise, the others hurriedly submitted as well. The black spirit panthers obediently led the way forward. Master, the aerial spirit beasts are gathered in the valley over there. Zhang Xian stowed his clone, the Byzantium Helios beast, and the golden origin cauldron into his myriad anthive nest before leaping onto one of the black spirit panthers and setting forth. The area where the aerial spirit beasts were located wasn't in close proximity to the cavern. Even with the black spirit panther sprinting at full speed, it still took an entire 5 minutes before they arrived at their destination. Beneath their feet was a massive valley with a diameter of around 3 li. Activating his eye of insight, Zhang Xian peered into the valley. Just as the golden bear tiger beast had said, there were indeed 3,000 of them, and every single one of them had reached transcendent mortal 7 dan at the very least. If such a huge group of aerial spirit beasts were to launch an assault toward Hengyuan City, it would indeed be difficult for any defending force to stop their charge perfectly. In the event of an attack, even if they did successfully clear away every single one of them in the end, Hengyuan City would probably suffer devastating damage as well. I have to set up a formation to ensure that none of them manage to escape. Zhang Xian thought. There were simply too many aerial spirit beasts in the area. If any of them noticed that something was amiss and escaped to inform the golden bear tiger beast of the matter, school head Mo would be placed in a very dangerous position. Taking a deep breath, Zhang Xian began scanning his surroundings to analyze how he should set up his formation. This geographical terrain seems to be suited for the grade 6 resplendent Helios illusory formation. Alright, that shall be it then. Even though he hadn't taken the Formation Master examination yet, his comprehension of formations was already on par with a 6-star Pinnacle Formation Master. With his current capability, he could still easily determine the most appropriate formation to use swiftly by looking at the terrain. Flicking his wrist, he took out a bunch of formation flags. After which, he stepped forcefully against the ground and leaped down into the midst of the aerial spirit beasts. Roar! Upon seeing that a human was amid them, the aerial spirit beasts roared in astonishment. However, just as they were about to launch an assault to kill the intruder, the 2 black spirit panthers abruptly leaped up as well and roared, "This is the man who has come here to negotiate with our kings, Zhang Shi. He is here to take a look at our aerial spirit beast army camp, as well as set a formation around here. There is no need to be alarmed." Those black spirit panthers spoke in the beast language, so the aerial spirit beasts could comprehend what they were saying. As those speaking were the attendants of their kings, the aerial spirit beasts had no objections whatsoever. They scattered and returned to whatever they were doing before. Heaving a sigh of relief, Zhang Xian drove his jinqi, and the flags in his hands began scattering into the surroundings. Who? As the resplendent Helios illusory formation came to life, a thick mist began to set into the valley, shrouding all of the aerial spirit beasts within it. Knowing that the young man was going to set up a formation, the aerial spirit beasts didn't panic, waiting for him quietly to finish instead. Time to start. With a chuckle, Zhang Xian brought out his clone, and the both of them dived into the mist. Roar! 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 In an instant, the cries of the aerial spirit beasts immediately filled the valley. Even the strongest of these aerial spirit beasts was only at Chrysalis Realm Pinnacle, so they were no match for Zhang Xian and his clone at all. As such, there wasn't even a need to bring out the Byzantium Helios beast and the Golden Origin Cauldron. Every few steps Zhang Xian took, an aerial spirit beast submitted. While Zhang Xian was busy taming the aerial spirit beasts, in the cavern, School Head Mo's forehead was covered with sweat. It had been 2 hours since Zhang Xian left, and the saint beasts were beginning to get suspicious. The golden bear tiger beast, who stood at the very center of the room, bellowed with a livid face, "Why aren't they back yet? Mo Zhu, what the hell is your student doing?" A trip to the valley where the aerial spirit beast army was located and back should only take 20 minutes at most. For them to be gone for 2 hours, it was clear that there was something really wrong. "My student is only a Chrysalis Realm cultivator while your Cloud Mist Ridge is filled with many saint beasts. What are you worrying about?" Even though School Head Mo was panicking inside, he didn't allow any of it to show on his face. With a composed chuckle, he said, "My student is a very meticulous person, so he is probably checking thoroughly to confirm the strength of your aerial spirit beast army. Or, are you worried that he will escape?" "Escape? Ha! With you here, what can a mere student like him do?" The golden bear tiger beast harumphed coldly. "Scarlet Blaze Lion, go and check what that fellow is up to. Humans have always been a cunning race, so don't fall for his lies." "Yes." Nodding, the Scarlet Blaze Lion began to walk out of the cavern. "Wait a moment." Astonished, School Head Mo immediately got to his feet. "He is just a student. Are the kings of the Cloud Mist Ridge so timid?" "Timid?" The golden bear tiger beast burst into laughter, as if he had just heard a hilarious joke. "Scarlet Blaze Lion, ignore him. Go and take a look." Ignoring School Head Mo's attempt to stall for time, the golden bear tiger beast gestured for the Scarlet Blaze Lion to move on. Seeing that the Scarlet Blaze Lion was really going to head out, School Head Mo suddenly chuckled softly and said, "I have long heard that the great golden bear tiger beast king of Cloud Mist Ridge possesses extraordinary strength. Do you dare to have a match with me? I am interested in experiencing the prowess of the beast tribe myself. You are challenging me to a duel." Not expecting School Head Mo to make such an abrupt request, the golden bear tiger beast frowned. "Pardon me, did I scare you?" School Head Mo said with a wry smile. "Scare me? You must be joking. If a duel is what you want, a duel is what you'll get." Harumphing coldly, the golden bear tiger beast got to his feet. "Good. Scarlet Blaze Lion King, why don't you remain here to watch our battle? You will be next after I am done with Golden Bear Tiger Beast King." School Head Mo said haughtily. Naturally, this was an attempt to stall for time as well. Even though he wasn't sure what Zhang Xian was up to, he was determined to accomplish what he had promised the latter. "Sure." The Scarlet Blaze Lion nodded. Both School Head Mo and the Golden Bear Tiger Beast were the strongest existences in Hongyuan Empire. Naturally, watching a battle between the both of them was much more interesting than looking for a Chrysalis Realm fellow. "Let's begin then." Fearing that the Golden Bear Tiger Beast would notice that he was stalling once he was given time to think, School Head Mo rushed forward and thrust his palm at the Saint Beast. The incredible might of a Saint One Dan pinnacle abruptly permeated the entire cavern. With just a single palm, the ground of the cavern began creaking in protest, seemingly on the verge of breaking under the immense force. "Ha ha ha. If this is all you've got, I have to say that you are a disgrace to the name of 10 great master teachers." Against the immense pressure, the Golden Bear Tiger Beast didn't show the slightest fear. Instead, with a furious bellow, he raised his paw and swiped forward, causing the air to release a painful screech as it was torn in two. See la. Under the powerful might, the strength of School Head Mo's palm thrust was completely neutralized. In the next instant, the Golden Bear Tiger Beast furiously flicked its whip-like tail towards School Head Mo. The strength and speed behind it were so great that even with school head Mo's Saint Realm 1 Dan pinnacle cultivation, he would surely suffer severe injuries if it were to land on him. Who? Not daring to face the tail directly, school head Mo swiftly dodged with a side leap. But in that instant, the golden bear tiger beast sent yet another swipe towards school head Mo. In the midst of a leap, he was unable to change the trajectory of his motion abruptly, so he could only face the swipe head-on with a punch. As the paw and the fist came into contact, school head Mo instantaneously felt a crushing pressure on his chest, and he was sent flying away. His back crashed heavily into the wall of the cavern, creating a huge hole behind him. Beasts had always possessed superior physical resilience and strength compared to humans, and the golden bear tiger beast was the most formidable saint beast in the Cloud Mist Ridge. School head Mo was, by no means, weak, but it was still impossible for him to face the other party head-on. Ha! Is this the strength of a member of the 10 great master teachers? Nothing impressive about it at all. With a deafening roar that jolted one's mind silly, the golden bear tiger beast charged forward with impressive momentum. As the saying went, the dragon soared amid the clouds, and the tiger raced against the wind. Even though the golden bear tiger beast wasn't a tiger in the truest sense, it did possess part of its bloodline. Even before the other party had reached him, school head Mo could already feel a huge gust of wind blowing in his face. Astonished, he quickly freed himself and whipped out a sword to counterattack. If he was no match for the other party in terms of brute force, he would have to rely on his weapon then. Moving at an unbelievable speed, the sword left after shadows in its wake as it charged toward the golden bear tiger beast. In the face of the powerful stab, the golden bear tiger beast didn't even bother to dodge. Instead, it took in a deep breath, and its fur immediately turned pitch black, reminiscent of a scale. Ding ding ding. The tip of the sword and the fur collided with astonishing momentum, but the sword was unable to pierce through the fur. What? School head Mo's face paled. He had known that it was unlikely that he would be a match for the golden bear tiger beast, but he hadn't expected the other party to be so powerful. To think that his sword wouldn't even be able to penetrate the other party's defense, this was way too fearsome. It was no wonder that, even though the 10 indomitable kings of the Cloud Mist Ridge were all at St. One Dan Pinnacle, they still obeyed his orders without the slightest hesitation. Just this defense itself was sufficient to render most saint beasts and cultivators powerless. 13 Swords of the Red Leaf. However, he couldn't back down now. The slightest hesitation in his movement could spell his defeat. School head Mo immediately drove his Jinchi through a unique circulation pathway in his body, and a piercing buzz emanated from his sword. In that instant, astounding might gathered in his sword, and it felt as if it would tear down anything that stood in its path. The 13 Swords of the Red Leaf, his strongest battle technique. Back then, the Inferno Dragon Saint Beast had fallen under this move of his and willingly became his tamed beast. Tzzzzzzzz. In that instant, the aftershadows of the sword seemed to form a red leaf in midair as it rushed forward with a might that threatened to shatter everything before it. Interesting. However, if you hope to defeat me with just this, you must be dreaming. The golden bear tiger beast was slightly astonished for an instant when he saw school head Mo execute his sword art, but his astonishment swiftly gave way to a wry smile. Sharp claws emerged from his raised paws, and he launched a devastating swipe towards school head Mo's sword. Ding ding ding. The paw and the red leaf collided. The golden bear tiger beast was forced to retreat a single step under the immense force, but school head Mo was sent flying once more as blood spurted from his mouth. His body smashed heavily onto the ground, and his complexion turned ghastly pale from the severe internal injuries he had suffered. He hurriedly stood up and swallowed a recovery pill, and after a brief moment of recuperation, he finally felt his injuries alleviating slightly. How is it? Does my strength satisfy you? The golden bear tiger beast roared with laughter as its gaze fell on the defeated school head Mo. Even though it had sustained some injuries from the previous collision as well, its condition was still much better than that of the other party. This battle had ended with a complete victory on his part. "You are indeed powerful," School Head Emo said as he got to his feet. He truly wasn't a match for the other party. Even though they were at the same cultivation realm, it was still too difficult for a cultivator like him to overcome the innate advantages that Saint Beasts possessed. Otherwise, the Byzantium Helios Beast wouldn't have been known as the strongest expert in the Master Teacher Academy. The Golden Bear Tiger Beast returned to his seat and commanded, "All right, since this duel is over, Scarlet Blaze Lion, you can hurry over to see what that lad is up to now. If he is plotting something against the Cloud Mist Ridge, you have permission to kill him on the spot." "Yes." The Scarlet Blaze Lion nodded before heading out of the cavern. "No, wait." Hearing those words, School Head Emo panicked. He was going to step forward to stop the Scarlet Blaze Lion, but the Golden Bear Tiger Beast's cold words suddenly reverberated through the cavern at this moment. "Why? Does School Head Emo want to have another round with me?" School Head Mo's body trembled. With the injuries he had sustained, he couldn't afford to fight against the Golden Bear Tiger Beast again. Otherwise, he might just lose his life. He had no idea whether or not Zhang Xian was done with whatever he was trying to do, but he was already at his wit's end. He couldn't stall the other party any longer. At this point, the Golden Bear Tiger Beast had also noticed School Head Mo's motive, and he bellowed furiously, "What are you waiting for? Go!" Yes, the Scarlet Blaze Lion swiftly rushed out of the cavern, and in a moment, he had already disappeared from sight. Principal Zhang. Watching as the other party's back disappeared, School Head Mo's body fell feebly to the ground. "I have already done all I can." 1.5 km. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.